This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome into the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at noon on your Tuesday, and it is an election day at that. As you can see, we've got our countdown now to when polls will close. You still have about 8 hours to go and cast your ballot in this primary election. Polls opened earlier this morning at 7 a.m. And of course, we will have plenty of election coverage coming up for you throughout the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll walk you through some of the different races that are on the ballot, certainly gain a lot of attention. We'll even actually get you caught up on what's going on in Minnesota today, as there is a primary there as well. We'll have our political expert Jason Calvi join us once again here on the Live Desk, as well as some of our other experts when it comes to this election. And we should mention, we will have extended coverage for you today. Obviously, the Wisconsin Live Desk is from right now until 4 p.m. Then we have our afternoon newscasts from 4 to 6:30. Keep it locked right here, 6:30 to 9. Brian Polson will be here in our streaming studio, just keeping you updated as those kind of last hours before polls close happen. And then as we start to get some of those results in, you can also stay tuned to our evening newscast as well. We've got you covered today when it comes to all things elections. Want to take a quick live look outside. Not the prettiest of Tuesdays, that's for sure. Lots of clouds in the sky, and as you can see, the road's a little wet right there. We are experiencing some rain today. The severe storm chance at one point wasn't looking too great, but it seems to have gone in our favor, at least this time today. But we'll check in with our weather expert, Lisa Michaels, for the very latest on this forecast. I know some other areas near us, Chicago, suburbs in Illinois, Indiana, are being hit hard this afternoon.
Yeah, and I think reports are just going to start coming in for some of those areas, Haley, because there have been at least estimated winds of higher than 90 miles an hour in some areas near Aurora, Illinois. Now, that's going to be a continuation of something that we really have to watch for closely because those spots have already had a few pictures I've seen of some significant tree damage. And here we did luck out. We have some rain still falling down, but we did not have the severe weather that areas to the south in Chicago saw. And one of the reasons why, it has to do with where this front was placed. Now, if you're watching since this weekend, we did mention that this front is just going to kind of linger near the Wisconsin-Illinois border. And wherever it fully sits, that is where we are going to have the better chance of strong to severe storms. Now, that front is a little bit further south of the border, so Chicagoland areas and south of it had the better threat for severe storms, and that's exactly what transpired. At one point, we had most of Chicagoland under tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings that is now shifted into Michigan and Indiana. What we are noticing is the amount of very strong winds and tree damage reports coming in from areas along and south of Lake Michigan. Well, we didn't really have any reports of any kind of damage here, but we did have some heavier storm activity at one point from Rock County into Walworth County, and even that area has been weakening quickly. A couple light showers still could be out there with some drizzle, lingering, mainly widespread light rain south of I-94, and in areas that even had some storms last night closer to the border. That is where we've been tracking the higher rainfall totals, an inch to possibly an inch and a half. Now, the rain that just moved through there definitely caused some soaking rain, so there has been some reports of some low-level flooding in some areas near Walworth County as well. Not as much of an impact in our northern counties. In fact, it's been dry, but here is the update that we have for the rest of the day today. The severe weather threat has been downgraded for Wisconsin and Illinois, with the slight to enhanced risk now stretching across the Ohio River Valley. Here locally, though, I really don't think we're going to have much in terms of additional strong storms later on, just by the way it looks right now. Now, tomorrow we are in this kind of unusual or weird looking pocket where we are not under a risk for severe storms, but I don't want that to catch you off guard because there is still the potential tomorrow for some showers or storms in the forecast. So what we're tracking, at least for the rest of the day today, is really hanging on to some thicker clouds. We'll gradually start to see the clouds thin out and give us some sunshine, and that's going to help warm our temperatures into the upper 70s, maybe 80 degrees by the afternoon. We're not there yet. we're in the low 70s, still feeling very oppressive though. Our dew points are in the upper 60s, low 70s. It does not feel great. And especially once we see that sun come out, it is going to evaporate all of that surface moisture from the showers we just had and make it feel even worse. So just keep that in mind. It's going to feel more tropical than anything today through Thursday. Now, when do we get a break? You clearly can see the difference here, right? We'll have slightly more comfortable moving in on Friday. And when we do get to Friday, that does look to be the pick of the week for partly cloudy skies and no rain in the forecast and cooler temperatures. Of course, I wish we could extend that into the weekend, but there is going to be another couple waves of energy this weekend that could bring some showers and thunderstorms on Saturday and another round come Sunday. So Haley, you kind of have to take your pick. And thankfully, it's not looking at being widespread every single day. And I don't think we're going to have severe weather every single day. There is still the chance as we head into tomorrow of an isolated shower or storm during the afternoon. But for the most part, we'll still have pockets of dry time, which means you can maybe walk the dog during that time. You can still go to the state fair. You can still do grocery shopping. You just have to pay close attention to the weather. And again, your Fox 6 weather experts will have you covered. But with all the stuff going on, we're wrapping up the summer before kids heading back to school. I know we want to enjoy the outdoors, and Mother Nature's just not really helping us out right now and giving us those daily shower and storm chances. But what it is helping us out with is the drought conditions. And that's something that we've been dealing with for the majority of this summer, Haley. So the rain is well needed, and I think we're going to be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate Mother Nature at least giving us one day to look forward to, and it's, you know, a weekend evening, I would say, so I'll take that as well.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue to track this because the main thing we want to get rid of is the drought conditions. And I did just write up an article. It's on our Facebook pages. It's also online of comparing last year at this time where we pretty much had no drought conditions to having significant drought conditions in some spots now, and why just 1 or 2 rain events doesn't mean we're going to get rid of the drought. We have to have consecutive rain events in order for the soil, not just the top layer, the deep soil, to absorb that moisture. So again, if you want to dig into the nitty-gritty stats, the nerdy stuff that I like doing, you can find that on fox6now.com.
And I think that'll be a great read that we can go look up. Also think it's a good option if you have any family in Illinois or Indiana, do what I did, and I just texted to make sure everyone was okay.
Yeah, me too. And you know what, Stephanie Barakello, she also has family there. She was checking in with them too, so just make sure they're fine. That's going to be very important. Unfortunately, the Chicagoland area has been having more damage than what we've had. In fact, they just had significant damage about a week or 2 ago, so we're going to have to see what the reports are looking like as we move into the next couple of hours. And if we do have something significant, maybe I can pop it on our show. We'll just have to wait and see.
All right, looking forward to that, Lisa. Thanks so much for joining us with a look of the forecast. Yes, it's a rainy one. I'll show you another live look outside here where you can see some of these raindrops in downtown Milwaukee. But again, for the most part, we have really avoided some of the severe risks that we thought we might see today. Again, though, if you have any family or friends in Indiana or Illinois, it might be worth a quick text to them, just making sure that they are okay, especially kind of those Chicagoland suburbs. I know they were hit hard in addition to Indiana. Again, it is election day here in Wisconsin. This is your chance to have your voice be heard, to go and do your civic duty. As a reminder, polls are open until 8 p.m., so you still have plenty of time to go and to vote. And if you are in line at 8 p.m., you cannot be turned away. So even if you haven't actually cast your ballot by 8, as long as you're in that line, you will be able to vote. We will be keeping you up to date all evening long, as I mentioned. Extending our streaming coverage today, also adding on 6:30 to 9. So we will have you covered from right now through 10:30. We will have constant streaming and newscasts and just keeping you in the know, especially after 8 when we start getting some of those results in. If you're wondering, some of the bigger races, well, this has been a pretty big one. It is a partisan primary, so when you go today, you will either vote for the Republican side of races or the Democrat side of races. And when it comes to Democrats in the running to be the next governor of Wisconsin, all 7 of these names will actually be on your ballot. Only 4 of them are still in the race, still have their campaign open. Again, that is Joel Brennan, David Crowley, who was endorsed by Governor Evers when he re-entered this race. You have Francesca Hong as well as Kelda Roys. In a lot of the Marquette University law poll kind of surveys that they put out, Francesca Hong was the front runner here. Still a lot of people also undecided. So we will really have to see what happens tonight, who will be the candidate on the ballot come November for Democrats. On the Republican side of things, here Tom Tiffany by far the front runner in those types of polls, but he's also facing Andy Mansky, a 27-year-old healthcare worker. So again, you will not be able to vote in both of those races. You will vote in just one. So you will get to choose between voting for either Tom Tiffany or Andy Mansky, or voting for one of these 4 candidates who are the Democrats running for governor. If you choose to vote for both, your ballot will actually not be counted. So just make sure and stay consistent, but you can choose to vote for either party. Again, polls closing at 8 p.m. tonight. I'll pull up our little countdown here. You still got 7 hours, 49 minutes, and 5 seconds, but we'll have you covered all the way through that. For now, we'll take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be back with more news right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 12:13 on your Tuesday afternoon. I want to take us live out to New York, and that is because a pretty big court hearing happened here earlier today. Accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione appearing in court today for what could be the final hearing before his state trial begins next month. Mangione has pleaded not guilty to shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan back in 2024. Of course, this is certainly a case that really has gripped the nation's attention. Want to go ahead and bring in our own Kaylee Schuyler joining us today here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So Kaylee, what happened today in court?
Hi, Haley. So it was a quick hearing, only about 20 minutes, but the judge came out stern and he immediately started talking about the contentious topic in this trial of media access. And we learned this morning that there is going to be an overflow room in the courthouse for this trial. There's also going to be 80 media members that are accommodated to cover this trial. But for jury selection, there's only going to be one pool reporter and the jury is going to be anonymous. And this is a topic that really the prosecution and the defense have been going back and forth. Mangione's team wants really really the whole trial to be broadcast live. But it's important to know in New York, they usually don't allow that in criminal cases. And if it is allowed in this case, it would only be for opening statements. Now, on the other side, the prosecution says they do want this to be public, but they say there's such high interest in this case that it would be impossible to allow every single person into the courthouse that has an interest in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like honestly a lot of people would want to be in that room if possible, just because again, this is a case so many people have been following, have an interest in. So I guess the best next option would be able to watch some sort of live footage. But as you mentioned, potentially only going to get that of the opening statements. Do we know when we would kind of find out if we would get that at all?
We did not receive any guidance on that today. I was not able to go into the courtroom, but we had a reporter inside that was sending out notes, and we didn't hear about that. Also, something that was, highly debated was this overflow room, and the prosecution also wants the overflow room to be audio only. So that's something we're waiting on the answer for as well. So we're expecting a written ruling on some of this because today, at the end of the hearing, the judge said, "We'll see you all on September 8th."
All right, and of course, September 8th would be for the state murder trial. He also faces federal charges for the same crime. What do we know about that trial? Because I know that would also happen in the coming months.
Yeah, so he also faces numerous charges in that case as well. That's expected to start in January. So, of course, we have to get through the state trial first. They're expecting it to be 4 to 6 weeks long. Jury selection could be a pretty long process, trying to make sure that they can find unbiased jurors that can have an open mind coming into some of these hearings. So it's going to be an interesting couple of months to see what happens. And, Haley, I will tell you something that's been interesting. I've been covering a lot of these hearings really throughout the winter. And every single time there's a lot of Mangione supporters out here. We know he does kind of have a fan base. They're raising money for him. And today it's actually been pretty quiet, which is shocking considering it is most likely the last hearing before trial starts in September.
Luigi himself was in the courtroom today. Did he have any sort of reactions to anything? As you mentioned, I know it was a very quick hearing at that.
Our reporter in the courtroom says that he was just sitting there listening to both sides talk. She said a couple times he was kind of tilting his head while he was listening. He was able to wear a dark suit in court today, which was a win for the defense. But on the way out, his team said that he's ready for trial to start.
Yeah. Kaylee, let me ask you this, because to your point here, Luigi Mangione certainly does have a lot of supporters rallying behind him, which is not something you often hear for somebody facing murder charges here. What about this case has people coming out and saying, no, we want him free, we want to support him?
You know, I think, and it's something I've talked a lot to, just with a myriad of people throughout covering this case. I do think insurance can be a touchy topic for a lot of families, a lot of people. So I think the fact that there is a CEO death in the insurance world that's involved here, I think a lot of people are watching it closely. And so it's just interesting to see. They want to see what's going to happen. But it is interesting, though, that he is a murder suspect in this case, and a lot of people are supporting him. So I think just with him, too, he's just been in a lot of hearings. We've seen him be super happy and kind of charismatic and talking to some of the court officers. And in a weird way here in New York, it seems like people are kind of drawn to that.
All right, Kaylee, appreciate you so much joining us here live on the Wisconsin Live Desk after what might be the kind of final hearing before this trial, to your point, set to start September 8th for the state charges that Luigi Mangione faces. He's pleaded not guilty, but I know you were saying he does face the possibility of life in prison if he ultimately is convicted here. Kaylee Schuyler reporting for us live in New York. Thanks so much, Kaylee. I know, again, a lot of you guys have really been following this case closely since we just learned originally about the killing of Brian Thompson, the former now United Healthcare CEO, and then it started that kind of manhunt for who was responsible, ultimately Luigi being accused here. And again, now we followed kind of every step of the way, and we're getting closer to that actual trial kickoff date of September 8th. Certainly something that we will keep you updated right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. For now, we'll take a quick break, then we're going to get you out to a live event in just a little bit. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you on your Tuesday, your election Tuesday at that. Time check for you, 12:21. I'm going to pull up our countdown here because, again, it is Election Day. Polls closing at 8 p.m. tonight, which would be in 7 hours, 38 minutes, and 34 seconds. Still plenty of time to go to your polling site and cast your ballot, get your vote in so that your voice can be heard. Again, you do have to go to your polling site today. I know with early voting, you can kind of go to anyone in your county most of the times. But if you are still wondering, well, what is my polling site? I'm not sure. You can always go to myvote.wi.gov. You will type in your address and it will pull up exactly where you need to go to vote today. A lot of times it will also show you a sample ballot, which I know I like just so nothing catches me off guard. We have covered very much a heavy focus on the gubernatorial race, but there are some other races on the ballot as well. So I always kind of just like that lowdown of what I can expect so I can go in knowing how I want to cast my vote and, again, not be caught off guard with any of those races. But we will have plenty of election coverage coming up for you in just a little bit. In the meantime, I actually want to get us out to the Rotary Club meeting that is getting underway. What we are expecting is to hear eventually from Milwaukee Mayor Cavalier Johnson. Johnson will be talking on a number of issues, we're told, including immigration enforcement, election investigations, certainly a timely one there, as well as talking about getting his kind of 2027 city budget ready. We were having some speakers. Now we're kind of just perusing as they enjoy their lunch, which is making me slightly hungry here. But we will go ahead and listen in here as we wait for Mayor Johnson to start speaking at the Rotary Club of Milwaukee meeting happening right now.
We were also pleased to welcome Teens Grow Greens, whose teen interns provided professional headshots for our scholars and alumni while gaining hands-on photography experience. We wish all of our scholars the very best as they head off to college this fall and cannot wait to see what they all accomplish. Then, last Thursday, a small but mighty group of Rotarians came together for a done-in-a-day volunteer
Lindy McKee, Eric and Mary Eisbuster, and the rest of the crew for lending a hand and making a difference in our community. All right. Next, the latest episode of Connections. The podcast is out. In this episode,
as you can see, just looking there at Mayor Cavalier Johnson at his table, because he is in attendance here, obviously not speaking yet. They're just making their way through the agenda, kind of doing their early announcements here of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee meeting as we wait for Mayor Johnson. So as we wait for this to kind of officially kick off, a couple of things I want to let you know to expect coming up in just a little bit on the Wisconsin Live Desk. For starters, we get to be joined once again with Tim Van Boren, our sports director, in Pittsburgh, getting ready for the Packers preseason game, their very first of the preseason Thursday night. He'll be joining us here in just about 35 minutes, so can't wait to chat with him. I know, as you can see, kind of a similar sky to what we're seeing here in Milwaukee. They have been dealing with some rain today. I know that threw his schedule off a little bit because he wasn't given some of the availability as early as expected, but we will see what he's been up to today, who he's been chatting with. I know for a lot of people, there's a lot of interest in him chatting with Packers players, but for some, there's also, some interest in him talking with the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking Aaron Rodgers there. So he'll be joining us in just a little bit because he, again, joining us all week long from Pittsburgh as we get ready for the Packers preseason to begin. Again, that's on Thursday. I'll pull up their preseason schedule here. That game at 6 p.m. Then on August 21st, we'll be making the trip to Denver to take on the Broncos, who obviously had a pretty good season last year. That preseason game, 8 p.m. And we will end things here August 28th versus the Arizona Cardinals, taking on, I guess, Matt LaFleur's brother, who's coaching over there at 7 p.m. And if you are somebody who thinks, I don't really care about preseason, well, you should. It's very interesting. It gives you a better picture of what to expect. But if you're waiting for the regular season, that kicks off September 13th, which is crazy because looking at the calendar, That is basically a month away. In 2 days, that will be 1 month away. So excited that we are that much closer to the NFL season. I always love getting to follow teams, fill out my fantasy league, and get my roster, and then cheer for so many various players across so many different teams. And of course, you know, the green and gold, they got quite the fan base here in Wisconsin, and hopefully they have such a great season. So again, TVV joining us here in just a little bit while we keep waiting for Mayor Cavalier Johnson to get to the Rotary meeting. He's there. We're just waiting for him to take to the podium. A couple other announcements. I know the weather is not necessarily cooperating, but if there are some dry spots tonight, you could go to the main stage for the Wisconsin State Fair. For the Isley Brothers, they will be also joined with the Commodores. I was a really big fan of the artist last night for King and Country. Adrian, our producer, you said you like the Isley Brothers, is that right?
Yes, they have a lot of good slow jam music, nice to kind of unwind,
Okay.
and good, not too high energy, you know?
Yeah. You could tell that Adrian used to work the really early morning shift because, yeah, sometimes you need, especially at the beginning or the end of that shift, like, I don't want to drive in the morning to, like, high energy, overwhelming music. I just want those slow tunes.
Footsteps in the Dark by the Isley Brothers. That was on the rotation.
Okay.
Definitely. Those early morning hours.
There you go. So go hear Footsteps in the Dark. Hopefully it's on the set list, but they will for sure be playing the main stage later on this evening. Looking ahead to tomorrow for the non-music fans, because I know you're out there, or maybe you are a music fan, but you also love a good comedian. John Mulaney bringing his Mr. Whatever tour to the State Fair, headlining that main stage. I love that they don't only have musicians, but they're also bringing in a comedian. Truly something for everyone. Again, he'll be taking the stage Wednesday. That is tomorrow, August 12th. This is a tour that he has been bringing to a lot of stadiums this summer. I mentioned he did his Illinois stop last month. He was at Wrigley, so I think it's so cool that he's also going to be performing right here at the Wisconsin State Fair. At last check, both of those shows, they still have tickets available, so you can go and see either the Isley Brothers or John Mulaney, or both, maybe. But again, the State Fair open already today. It will be open until 10 p.m. And as a reminder, if you're thinking, I'd love to make it out there, I don't know if I'll make it out necessarily today, you could also go on the weekend. That's when they're open all the way until midnight, which is way past my bedtimes. Maybe for some of y'all party animals out there, you want to be at the State Fair until midnight. Ticket prices for you here, adults $20, youth are $13, kids 5 and under are free. Usually there's a couple of discounts available that change every single day, so it might be worth looking it up and seeing if you would qualify for any sort of savings, but otherwise, not too expensive of an activity. Again, adults the most expensive there at $20 a ticket. Talking State Fair, I also want to do another mention here of the election. It is crazy to think that we are here at the primary. We have been talking about this day for months and months, and yes, that gubernatorial race has just been one to follow. I know Mordecai Lee, one of our political experts, joins us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and a few weeks ago when we saw yet another shakeup, he said, you know, this is unlike anything that I've ever seen before, and that is really, I think, kind of the story, the outcome of what we've already seen these last couple of months, especially here in this specific race. Again, it's a partisan primary, so you will either be voting for Republican candidates or for Democrat candidates. You can choose either. They're both on your ballot. You just can't fill out both sides. So this is where we're at. All 7 of these names are going to be on your ballot when you go and vote. Again, polls close here in 7 hours and 30 minutes. That's 8 o'clock. However, Mandela Barnes, the former lieutenant governor, he has ended his campaign. Missy Hughes has ended his campaign. Current Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez ended her campaign. You just got Joel Brennan, David Crowley, Francesca Hong, and Kelda Roys still running here for Democrats. On the Republican side, Tom Tiffany and Andy Mansky in the running. Again, you will only vote for one of those kind of candidate bunches, either for the Republicans or for the Democrats. We'll go back in and jump into some of the other races that you can expect to see on your ballot in a little bit, but I did see Mayor Cavalier Johnson just stepped up to the podium here at the Rotary Club, so we'll go ahead and listen into what's expected to really be addressing several different issues here, so we'll listen in together.
On the screen there, some of the folks who are joining as guests, some of which I'm very fond of, like my former colleague on the City Council, Alderman Michael Murphy. Some others I simply tolerate, like my Chief of Staff, Nick Desiato, but that's okay. I want to say to Patrick, please tell your brother Tim that I say hello. Good man. And I want to say to Emily, welcome home. So there's a couple of items that I want to touch on here today. They are about elections, about immigration, and about our city budget, which we are in the midst of forming for 2027. And so we'll discuss them in that order. On elections, again, today is election day, so if you haven't made a plan to vote, if you haven't voted early, please do make a plan to vote. Every vote does count. I was at a rally just last night, as a matter of fact, and I had mentioned that even with all the polls out there saying this is going to happen, that's going to happen, the one poll that matters the most is the poll that happens on election day. So everybody, please, take the time to go out and vote today. I know it's a little rainy out, but don't let that deter you. Please go out and make sure that you cast your ballot. Yes, please. Yeah. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. Go vote. So Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee opens 176 different polling locations on election day with literally hundreds and hundreds of voting wards in those locations. It's a really big, it's a massive operation with little to no room for error. Now, the people who run our elections, I have worked with them over the years. I've worked alongside them in previous elections. These folks are honest. They've got no agenda other than a commitment to civic integrity. All right? The folks that work our elections are really, really incredible individuals. So it highly offends me. It highly offends me when there are those folks who falsely impugn their work. I got the chance to see some of these folks just recently, and I can tell you that these folks are true patriots. They are. This is a democracy, and the whole reason that this exists and continues to move forward is because we have folks like them who step up every single election in order to make this thing keep going. So I've got nothing but the utmost respect for those folks, and it really boils my blood when people, no matter where they are, whether they're in Wisconsin or Washington or anywhere else, tries to say that they're cheating or doing something nefarious when that just is not the case. So that's how I feel. You can imagine, though, how some of these folks feel as an election worker who has done absolutely nothing wrong, and then they have the FBI showing up at their door, unannounced, with questions. And those questions being based on irrational and unsubstantiated accusations about election denying people, and some of the things that they said. Some of these folks are just kind of far out there with their accusations about what's happening during our elections. To me, that's not the America that I so sought to serve when I was a 14-year-old kid, as Tom was talking about. When I was encouraged to get involved in public life all those years ago. I didn't see it that way. That's not America to me. To me, that seems more like intimidation. And so for us, I'll tell you this, our vote count in Milwaukee, it's accurate. And we've got a number of precautions that are in place. We double check our counts. And yes, absolutely, we in the city of Milwaukee, like every other place all around the state, we follow the law. There's nothing nefarious that's happening here in the city. I wouldn't allow it. So yes, in a system involving hundreds of temporary workers, at times, yes, there can be human errors. Like we're all human beings. Human beings operate our elections. However, the system is designed to catch those mistakes. And the ultimate backstop are recount elections, which we have engaged in over the years. So you may have, leading up to this election, you may have seen, read about, you may have heard the back and forth that I've had with the Vice President of the United States last month. And not just last month, it seems like every time he lands in Wisconsin, we end up having some words. But I sent a letter to him in the days leading up to his visit in Milwaukee, and I said that the investigation that the FBI was engaging in here was an attempt to undermine faith in American democracy. That's exactly what I felt, and that's what I wrote to the Vice President. I told him that there seemed to be no justification for the investigation, and the evidence of wrongdoing is entirely absent. Because it is. That's the fact of the matter. And importantly, I've said that he's intimidating honest, public servants. Not just him, but the President's administration in the way that they are applying the forces, the federal agents and federal forces in their administration. It's just wrong. They're scaring people. So I didn't just stop, there. I actually invited the Vice President to join me to go to our Elections Operations Center. And his response, as you can imagine, unfortunately, was just sort of flippant, and he passed on going to the tour. He said something at a time about, this example of his 6-year-old son, stealing cookies from a cookie jar or whatnot. And my thought was like, okay, actually, if your 6-year-old son did steal cookies from the cookie jar, you'd have some evidence. Right? You'd have an empty jar, right? There'd be a trail of crumbs around. That's not happening in elections in Milwaukee. And I think that's part of the reason why he and others refused to join me on the tour. But a week and a half ago, United States Senator Tammy Baldwin, she did join me on the tour. And I was grateful for that because she got a up-close look at our elections process. And I know that she was impressed because I was right there along with her. Unfortunately, Vice President didn't join us on that, and neither too has United States Representative Tom Tiffany, who I've invited to join on a tour because he too has similarly raised doubts about elections taking place here in Milwaukee. And he's not taken up the invitation to visit our Elections Operations Center to see firsthand, and this is what I want them to see just how careful we are, and just how we take our elections in Milwaukee. Another topic is immigration. Now, Milwaukee is in the Trump administration's target this way too, with overly aggressive immigration prosecution. Now, to be very, very clear, with folks who are here, undocumented people who commit violent crimes, serious crimes, and felonies, I think that those folks should be deported. They should be. And that, I think, is very consistent with what I've said ever since I became the mayor of the city, is that individuals who commit acts of death, harm, or destruction in our community should be held to account, including individuals who come here from other places. I think that the ultimate accountability for them is deportation, and I stand by that. For me, public safety has been a two-pronged approach. It's accountability and it's prevention. Jordan talked a little bit about some of the preventative programs we have, like Camp Rise and some of the other things that we've been very proud of. But if somebody commits an act of violence, then I'm sorry, but folks got to be held accountable for that. And all you have to do is turn on, the news at night, or talk to somebody who's been wronged, somebody's been hurt. Folks who are out there releasing balloons when somebody that they care about has been harmed, been hurt, worse yet, killed. What they're saying is that they want justice, right? They want accountability is what they're saying. And I agree with those people. I agree with them because I think that what they don't want to see and what I don't want to see is that somebody who is so willing to hurt somebody or to kill somebody, to think that they've got a license to go into some other neighborhood, some other community and hurt somebody else. So those folks have to be held to account. But what we're seeing here with the Trump administration's application of immigration law has been entirely inappropriate. I mean, think about it. You got masked men, these masked ICE agents in unmarked vehicles, smashing car windows. This sort of stuff, it is simply just unacceptable in a civil society. And think about this, something that I've thought about as a dad, right? If some of these agents were to go and in an unmarked vehicle with masks on and they're not identifying themselves as officers, and they snap somebody off the street and they toss them into some unmarked vehicle, how are you supposed to know that it's the federal government? How are you supposed to know that it's ICE? Just imagine the terror, the horror that families would think with that going on. That could be anybody impersonating an officer. and taking somebody that you care about to some other place. That is terrifying, and it's no way for a law enforcement agency to behave. That's certainly not how we behave in the city of Milwaukee with our Milwaukee Police Department. I believe that law enforcement must be conducted with respect and conducted with the least amount of force necessary, and honoring the dignity of those that we interact with. That's the message that I deliver to our new recruits in the Milwaukee Police Department every single time we have recruits at our police academy. Every single time. Because that's not just what I expect. That's what our citizens out there expect in Milwaukee too. So I'm very disturbed when I read stories about a local man who was arrested for deportation, even though he's in the midst of legal proceedings to gain permanent residency, when he's married to a U.S. citizen, when he's got a small child, and when he's got no criminal record. Sometimes I think, like, what in the world is the federal government thinking? Like, what are they trying to accomplish here other than scaring people? Those are the things I'm thinking about. The record of shooting deaths by ICE agents is alarming in Minnesota and in Maine and Texas. Overall, the federal government has simply failed us on immigration policy. And I'm old enough to remember when this election was getting started, this past presidential election, and when Joe Biden was president of the United States, and he worked very closely with one of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, Senator Langford out of Oklahoma, on a bill to strengthen border security and immigration policy of the United States. And unfortunately, and I think this is unfortunate because it needs to be fixed, Donald Trump, the president, when he was running at the time, called up members of Congress and said, don't support that because that hurts him politically. This isn't about politics. This is about doing what's right for our country, right? And now we're living with the consequence of what his fix is, which is to have agents like this going in and terrorizing communities all over our country. And it's just not right. It's just not right. As I mentioned, one of the other things I want to talk about is the city budget. And as you all know, and you've heard, not just from me, but from other executives in government that have to put together these massive documents for spending, putting the budget together is more important than an obligation that we have as elected officials. In simplest terms, a budget allocates money to departments to conduct their business. We all know that. It's more than a financial document. However, it's a declaration of our priorities and the implementation of the policies of our administration. So these days I'm spending a lot of time, as I do every single year during this time, reviewing options and making choices for the city budget in 2027. So for example, public safety is a top priority for me, has been since I became the mayor, before that even too, but certainly since. How much money do I direct towards police? That's a question. How much money do we direct towards violence prevention efforts? I talked about accountability and prevention. Do we spend more money on fire trucks? What about potholes? Nobody said anything about potholes. Should I work to increase fees or fines regarding our city employees? Should we have raises for those employees that keep up with inflation? These are the questions that I have to ask myself and ask my staff and engage with the community to get answers to. Again, roads. I am out. I'm out there constantly, all across the city. And leading up to this budget, I've been in people's backyards. I've been in their living rooms. I've, of course, been at a number of parades as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of our country. And the thing that people tell me the most, and this doesn't matter where I am in the city, far northwest side, far south side, east side, west side, you name it, folks are always asking me about the roads and can we do more to invest in streets. So those are all questions that I have to grapple with as we are developing the budget. And look, these are decisions, dozens of decisions. I believe probably even hundreds of decisions that I have to make each and every single day that affects our neighbors and affects the future of the city as it relates to the conversations we're having relative to building our city budget. Now, state law constrains Milwaukee in a number of ways as it relates to budget building. There are restrictions on how much we can increase property tax collections. It limits what fees we can collect, state government does. State law says we must increase the number of police and firefighters, which is something that I've wanted to do since I became the mayor, but now it's state law that requires an increase there. The 2027 city budget will again exceed $2 billion, so it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money that we're talking about, and we've got to match expenditures with revenue. In other words, as it is every single year, and for most levels of government, peculiarly outside of federal government, I think, our budgets have to balance. Our major sources of money are property tax collections, fees that we levy for specific services, and then shared revenue from the state of Wisconsin, and then, of course, our 2% city sales tax. And the funding array has changed over the years, most notably state shared revenue. And this is a tidbit that I think folks should pay and understand, should pay a little bit more attention to and understand that if shared revenue had simply kept pace with inflation over the course of the last 3 decades, Milwaukee would receive about $250 million more dollars each year. Think about that, $250 million. And last year, I had a budget hole that we had to climb out of about $100 million to balance the budget, and we did it. Now, because we made some difficult decisions last year, the budget gap is not as big, but it is similar in size. It is still pretty big. It's about $97 million that we got to climb out of. Meanwhile, as the slide shows, if shared revenue.
Again, we are currently listening in right now to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee meeting where Mayor Cavalier Johnson is currently speaking. We heard him talk a little about some of the allegations the Trump administration has made in the past about election fraud here in Wisconsin and the invite that he sent to J.D. Vance as well as to Tom Tiffany. That invite was actually something in that letter that J.D. Vance, the vice president, spoke of during his visit to Milwaukee just a matter of weeks ago. Also talking about some of the policies Milwaukee's pushing for immigration officers, those ICE agents, and now discussing the budget that he's getting ready to propose for 2027. And, the questions that he asks himself for priorities, but also having to balance out a budget and have some gaps, obviously, of this amount we're allowed to spend and the amount we want to spend and how he kind of picks and chooses there. We'll take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and then if this meeting is still happening, we'll get you right back out to it live. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 12:51 on your Election Tuesday. Want to get us back out to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee meeting underway right now as Mayor Cavalier Johnson continues to address those in attendance.
On the screen here, you could also go to engage.milwaukee.gov/budget. Take the survey. It's pretty quick. I think it's about 2 minutes or so to take just a few questions. And I want to hear directly from people about how we can deliver better services in the city of Milwaukee. So this is in addition, again, to myself going into people's backyards, going into people's living rooms, continuing to go out and knock on doors, which I haven't really stopped in the time that I've been in office, except for COVID, because I want to hear directly from people. And this is a great way for citizens across Milwaukee, folks who come into Milwaukee for work, pleasure, visiting, whatnot, to tell us what their priorities are. So again, I'm looking forward to what will happen next year, even beyond next year, to make Milwaukee fiscally sound and sustainable. In our efforts, I have prioritized innovation. I have prioritized efficiency. I've built partnerships that address everything from flooding prevention to pothole repair. You probably have seen a couple of potholes being filled around the city with a big brewer's mitt in it, highlighting our partnership with the Milwaukee Brewers to fill potholes. I'm hopeful that we can modify state law in the years ahead to add flexibility to the revenue that we receive in the city of Milwaukee. And I'm promoting growth for Milwaukee with more economic activity, more population as we go into the future, and continue to drive Milwaukee into a future, because I believe that when Milwaukee does well, when Milwaukee thrives, when Milwaukee is at its best and its strongest, that's a benefit not just to us, it's a benefit to our region, and it's a benefit to the entire state of Wisconsin. That's why I take this job so seriously, because I know the decisions that I make in this office have an effect on the city of Milwaukee, yes, but the tentacles of that reach much farther beyond that. Right? The decisions that we make here, what happens out of Milwaukee, affects the entire state of Wisconsin. So a strong Milwaukee equals a stronger Wisconsin, and that's exactly what I want to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for accepting our invitation today. It's great to have you back here at the Rotary Club. Those with questions can queue up behind Matt. Remember, succinct questions. There's going to be a lot of them. Mayor Johnson, thanks so much for being here. A quick question on elections.
Again, just hearing there from Mayor Cavalier Johnson talking on a couple of different subjects, ending there with the city budget proposal and the priorities that he's currently kind of weighing, and wanting to hear from all of us, saying not only is he going kind of door to door, there's also a survey we can fill out online. They're now moving on to that question and answer portion. So I know that can be kind of difficult to hear when we can't hear the questions that are being asked. But I did want to mention, if you want to keep watching this, we're streaming the Rotary Club of Milwaukee meeting in its entirety. Just go to FOX6Now.com, or if you go into the Fox local app, it's on the top of our page, and you can watch that again in its entirety. In the meantime, I have a request. I need some help from all of you guys. Going to take a live look here at Acrisure Stadium, which is, of course, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they will be taking on the Green Bay Packers come Thursday night. Just a few minutes away now from Tim Van Voren joining us here on the live desk. We asked for some questions yesterday. In case you weren't with us, I want to give you the opportunity to once again chime in with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. What Packers questions do you have before the first preseason game? Whatever you send us, we will ask them live to Tim Van Voren. He's joining us here in about 5 minutes or so. So again, you can go to either fox6now.com/connect to leave us a comment or a question, or you can just scan that QR code that is kind of right above the Wisconsin Live Desk logo, and we will ask your questions live of TVV. I know he really loves getting to hear what you guys are curious about. And I should note, this is open to everyone. So if you are a huge Green and Gold Packers fan and you have a very, specific, detailed question about a player or a position or the roster right now, send us that question. But if you also are somebody who maybe doesn't have that same wealth of knowledge when it comes to Packers, you're just kind of curious about TVV's favorite spots when he's in Pittsburgh, send us that as well. This can be whatever you guys want. If you have a question that's coming to mind, we just want to hear from you so we can ask them, and we'll show your question right here on the screen the way we are right now. But again, your way of kind of voicing these questions and sending them to us, you can go to fox6now.com/connect, or just scanning that QR code right above the Wisconsin Live Desk logo. So wanted to give you guys a little bit of time to try and get some of these questions in. I know I'm going to be asking him about the new receiver coming to training camp that we just picked up off of waivers. That's Chris Hilton Jr. Got him off waivers from the Washington Commanders, so kind of getting his thoughts on the new guy heading to the roster, whether or not he's got a chance at really making the finalized squad. Of course, those cuts due August 30th, but I'm also going to ask him, I think, maybe for his dinner plans in Pittsburgh, because this man, Tim Van Voren, he has traveled for many a Packers season, and a lot of times he's got kind of his favorite spots from the various stadiums and cities that he gets to travel to. So again, fox6now.com/connect, or scanning that QR code right there on your screen. We'll keep our eye on it. I know we didn't have quite as much time to try and get some of these questions as we did yesterday, but whatever we get, we will make sure and ask of him in just a little bit. I'll leave this up for about 10 or so more seconds, then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll check in with the man himself, Sports Director Tim Van Voren, joining us right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 12:59. Want to give you another chance here. I have it up. What Packers questions do you have before the first preseason game for our sports director, Tim Van Voren? He is standing by, going to join us momentarily. Again, fox6now.com/connect to leave us a comment or a question, or just go ahead and scan this QR code right here above the Wisconsin Live Desk logo. Another way to submit those questions, and we will ask TVV. Working out just a slight technical difficulty behind the scenes. As soon as that is figured out, we will chat with TVV. So in the meantime, we'll head back out to the Rotary Club of Milwaukee and listen to Mayor Cavalier Johnson answer some of the questions.
I participated in YMCA programs growing up, and I know the importance of mentorship and showing kids a way out of their neighborhoods where bad things may be happening and they may be exposed to just poverty and violence. When you open up an opportunity for kids, great things happen. This year, 2026, is the year of housing. Why? Again, it's me bringing my lived experience into this job as mayor. I know that housing is an issue. I know that affordability is an issue. Jordan mentioned in his introduction to me that I moved so many times when I was a kid. I went to 6 different elementary schools. 6. In fact, Lincoln Avenue Elementary School, the one that burned down just recently, that's where I graduated from 5th grade. Far and away from where I lived on the north side of the city of Milwaukee. So given my experience, my lived experience growing up here, I decided to apply some of those lessons, those lived lessons, to this job as mayor in the year of housing. So these are some of the things that we've been doing over the years, including here in the year of housing. Working with Michael Murphy there when he was on the council along with me, we used a lot of federal dollars from President Joe Biden's administration, American Rescue Plan Act dollars, and we invested a significant amount of those dollars into housing, to take city-owned, tax-foreclosed properties that we hold that basically have no value to us because they're not generating taxes. We invested money into those properties to fix them up, providing an opportunity for young, usually entrepreneurs who may not have had an opportunity to break in.
Again, listening in here to Mayor Cavalier Johnson, he finished up speaking a little bit ago here at the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. He chose to address 3 different topics. He first of all talked about some of the election claims the White House administration has had about fraud here in Wisconsin, his invitation to J.D. Vance, and the letter that he wrote the vice president when he visited Milwaukee a couple of weeks ago. Then he talked about immigration officers, ICE agents, and kind of his thoughts and policies there, and ending with the city budget, the proposal process that he's working on right now, and kind of how he stacks priorities. They moved on to the question and answer format. Looks like he was given a question here about housing affordability in the city of Milwaukee, and he is answering that right now. Again, we are streaming this meeting in its entirety. If you would like to keep watching it, you could also go to the Fox 6 YouTube page, another spot where we will continue to have that air until it is all the way done if you want to. In the meantime, it is 1:03, and I want to check in with our sports director, Tim Van Voren, joining us once again from Pittsburgh as you guys get ready for the Packers preseason first matchup Thursday night against the Steelers. For starters, I hear that the weather is kind of similar in Pittsburgh as it is in Milwaukee. It's a bit rainy over there today.
Little gray, yeah, but how about a little green for you, Haley? The green leafy campus of St. Vincent College. Were you aware? St. Vincent College in Latrobe is where the Pittsburgh Steelers have their training camp. So they get out of the city, and they're about an hour and 15 minutes away. So we're down in Latrobe. And it's beautiful here right now. It was kind of gray earlier today. In fact, all the fans were here to watch the Steelers practice outside. And they said, I'm sorry, folks, we're not going to be practicing outside today. So all those phones went away. There was no outdoor practice here in Pittsburgh, in Latrobe, or for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it never actually rained, Haley. It never actually rained, but it did threaten. So the Steelers went inside. They shortened up their practice, and they'll be ready for Thursday's game against the Packers. So we're all set to talk a little bit about that and join you from, again, a green, leafy private college in Pennsylvania. How often do you get that chance?
I mean, I love this for you. You've gone back to school here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the practice that, I guess the fans unfortunately didn't get to see today, but hopefully you did. Did you have eyes on Aaron Rodgers? I feel like that's probably the Steeler our viewers care the most about.
You're exactly right. Yeah, we did get inside practice, had the chance to watch what the Steelers did. Aaron Rodgers, to me, looks a little lighter maybe than he did last year, maybe down a little bit on weight. But he was out there on the practice field. Mike McCarthy, of course, coach of the Steelers now. So a lot of reason to be out here. And we had a chance to hear from Mike McCarthy earlier today. Then we had a chance to talk with Aaron Rodgers after the practice. So very productive for Packers fans who are kind of like, wow, this is like pick up some of that team and move it out here to Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy and a whole bunch of assistant coaches, Aaron Rodgers and several players on the roster have either Packer or Wisconsin Badger ties. So a lot to watch out here. There'll be a lot to watch this week, and we have a couple more interviews scheduled throughout the week leading up to the game, Haley. So very productive for us out here. Look forward to having that for you on our various Fox 6 platforms. But in terms of Aaron Rodgers, he looked good. He looked sharp. He looks engaged. In talking with him after practice, he was meeting the media. I don't want to say he and I were, sitting in the corner talking, but in meeting with him after the practice, he's, seems energetic, seems energized, and doesn't really care for preseason football, just like he used to talk about when he was in Green Bay. So certain attitudes are still in place.
I mean, I was going to ask you, first of all, Aaron Rodgers certainly having a productive offseason. We kind of saw him reunite with some of his family members, which was nice to see on social media. But I was going to ask, what his thoughts were about taking on his old squad. Most of his career obviously spent as a Green Bay Packer in the preseason, but sounds like he probably doesn't care who he's taking on. He's not too thrilled to be playing these preseason games, TVB.
He stresses that preseason's nothing like regular season football. Last year, Rodgers did go against the Packers for the first time in his career in a game here in Pennsylvania. The Packers won that game on a Sunday night. So he's not too fired up. I'm not sure if he'll play or not. Mike McCarthy telling us they'll make the decision this afternoon or tonight. He likes to see his quarterbacks play. He said it sets the tone out there for the rest of the team, and he wouldn't mind seeing Aaron Rodgers play. Rodgers, as I said, stressed that he doesn't think there's much to be gained from preseason football at all. So we'll see what decision the Steelers make. Matt LaFleur in Green Bay is talking about Jordan Love will play on Thursday night. So it should be interesting. There are things to gain from a preseason situation, though, particularly the first one of the season. There's a lot of operational stuff you have to get through kind of as a team. How's that going to look out there? And when you have a new coach, as the Steelers do, Mike McCarthy trying to put in his game plan, Aaron Rodgers may be comfortable with it. And by game plan, I mean more than just, what plays are you going to run, but how do you take the field? How do we stretch? What do we do at this point leading into the game? A lot of the players are not familiar with that. So the Steelers definitely feel they have a lot to gain by approaching this as a semi-serious football game, whether Aaron Rodgers plays or not.
Certainly understand why some of the teams, with the exception of Aaron Rodgers, like these preseason games. Why should maybe the average sports fan, average Packers fan be tuned in on Thursday and really care about these 3 preseason games the green and gold have coming up?
I think the Packers have a lot to watch in these preseason games, and the preseason games do matter more than just straight practice production. The lights are on, the nerves are there, the fans are there. So how are some of these guys going to handle the anxiety aspects of playing professional football? Might be fine. It might get to some of them. You just don't know. So practice production definitely matters, but game production in the preseason, particularly earlier in the game when the better players are out there, that factors into the evaluation as well. The Packers have a lot of decisions to make, maybe more than we thought coming into this training camp session. I really thought the storylines were kind of, going into this training camp. Haley, I thought, a lot of things were already established. Turns out they're not. The Packers are opening up competition on the offensive line, which I did not see. Opening competition at cornerback. They have a couple of guys moving up, a couple of guys moving back there. So, yes, it's still Jordan Love, and it's going to be Christian Watson and Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed, the main guys in the receiving area. Tucker Kraft, once he gets back from injury, he's your tight end. Josh Jacobs is your running back. Sure, that's all true. But a lot of the support players on the roster who will be out there playing a lot of snaps in the regular season are still to be determined, and that's going to be cleared up through these preseason games.
I just talk about still a lot of moving pieces. I saw the Packers picked up a new receiver a Sunday night off the waivers from the Commanders, Chris Hilton Jr. What do we know about him? Do we think he's just here for training camp? Do you think he's got a shot to make it on that final roster?
A long uphill battle if he's going to make that roster. Played at LSU. He's a gifted player. He comes in at the back of the depth chart for the Packers, who do have some other talented receivers kind of behind their main group. Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden missed a little time at the start of this week, so then you want to bring in some extra body just so you can run enough plays during practice. But Golden was back out there today in Green Bay, and so I think Hilton, he's a body at this point. You bring him in, you take a look at him. Again, there are so many talented college football players or right on the verge of NFL football players out there. the Packers do their due diligence. They like to look at all these guys. They did release the Cedarburg native Drew Bibber today. So Bibber's story undoubtedly is going to be an incredibly memorable one for him and for his family. And maybe it will continue back in Green Bay or somewhere else. For now, though, he's no longer on the Packers roster. But what a great chance to have an opportunity as a home state guy to be part of the Packers for, even if it was a short time. Drew Bibber, the tight end out of Purdue, was released today. But a lot of other guys fighting for their spots, Haley, and this is the livelihood. This is the dream. You have to keep it together. If you're here in Green Bay, if you're back in Wisconsin in Green Bay, or here in Pennsylvania for the Steelers. The Steelers have a player named Dean Lowry. Many years ago, he played defensive line for the Packers, and most fans would probably say, Dean Lowry's still kicking around playing? Well, sure, you keep the dream alive. You see if you can do it. I just saw Dean riding on a cart here past me down from the team cafeteria. So a lot of guys still trying it. You try to get your health together. You give it a shot if you can. It's your dream, and you don't want to give it up until you have to.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I've got a couple of fun questions for you if you've got the time for us.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take a live look here at Acrisure Stadium. Of course, this is the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You travel so much in the NFL season, TVV. What maybe trip are you most excited for with this upcoming football season, or what matchup are you most excited for?
Wow, good questions. By the way, Haley, all of your questions are fun and good, not just these extra ones here at this stage, all right? But actually, the Packers this year have all good destinations. I don't want to sound kind of, hey, look at this, but they have a lot of good spots on the schedule this year. They're in Tampa, they're in New Orleans, so you look forward to those trips because they're fun destinations. But you look forward to some of these matchups as well. The Los Angeles Rams the night before Thanksgiving in Los Angeles. That's going to be a marquee game in the NFC for sure. It's a primetime game. It's going to be on, huge numbers across the country on the Wednesday night prior to Thanksgiving. So I think that's the marquee matchup of the year for the Packers on the road. Los Angeles, we're just going to kind of get in there and get out of there. It's around the Thanksgiving holiday, but the game itself will be terrific. As I said, I think the Tampa Bay game is a good trip and an interesting trip early in the season. The Buccaneers have a lot to play for this season. They have a lot of talent. They didn't quite finish the way they wanted to last year. So I think they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder this year. And of course, just in the division, Haley, you're at Chicago on Christmas.
Yeah.
You're in Detroit. You're at Minnesota to start the season. So a lot of big games and some pretty nice destinations this year as well. New England was in the Super Bowl last year. The Packers are going to New England this year as well.
Are you selfishly hoping that sometimes these trips they time out? Like Tampa sounds like it's early in the season, but in January where you could just use a little break from the Milwaukee freezing winter and go somewhere warm? Is that sometimes your goal with these matchups? Go somewhere warm?
Sometimes, Haley. Sometimes. No, when that schedule comes out, you kind of know how your fall and winter are going to look. And you definitely, in advance now in the NFL what teams you're going to be playing. So it's a matter of when they put the actual schedule together. So you knew this season was a pretty attractive group of opponents. It's just a matter of when. New Orleans comes late in the year, so that's kind of nice. Tampa Bay does come early. So that's just the way that shakes out. But again, Los Angeles around the holiday of Thanksgiving, that'll be a marquee game for sure. Pretty special situation. So yeah, when Tampa Bay, long ago, Tampa Bay used to be in the Packers division, you always hoped that was a December game at Tampa Bay and that the teams would play in Green Bay early in the season. You didn't want that reversed at all.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Since you have been, so many times to so many different stadiums, I know you get kind of familiar with certain areas. We asked you at the Combine where you were going to eat dinner. Where are you going to eat dinner tonight? Or during the trip, have there been a couple spots where you're like, hey, we got to stop here, here, and here while we're in Pittsburgh?
There is a spot. I don't know if we'll get to it, though. Monterey Bay is a seafood spot way up on the incline, and you can overlook the city. It's beautiful. It's usually one of our stops if we can make it during Pittsburgh. And so we'll see if we can get there on this trip. But there are definitely spots that, as you said, we've been fortunate enough, photographer Mickey Leach and I have been fortunate enough to make a lot of these trips, been to every NFL stadium multiple times in many cases. So you kind of know the drills, where it fits and where it doesn't. And a lot of times it's a schedule thing. We're working, so you have to find places that can accommodate you at different hours. So we'll see what happens here in Pittsburgh. I'm sure we'll get something before the preseason game on Thursday. And yes, while the schedule comes out, you also kind of attach a dining establishment to most of those games too, Haley, on the road.
And I love that for you, albeit slightly jealous when I get to hear about some of the meals that you guys get. I'm going to save some of my fantasy football draft questions for later. I am playing once again this season. Last time I didn't get to have your input beforehand, so I'm going to try and pick your brain coming up in the next couple of weeks, your suggestions there. But in the meantime, what's left on the docket for you today? What's on the schedule?
Well, okay. First of all, obviously, I'm going to be preparing some answers for you when you have the fancy questions for me. So any quiet moment I get, maybe here on the college campus, I'll break out some data, try to see who we can crush in there for that. But yeah, we're going to put our material together. We have live reports tonight on Fox 6 over the air at 4, 5, and 6. Stories again tonight at 9 and 10. A lot of material to come up here on Fox Local and on the Fox 6 website. Tomorrow, I have a chance to sit down with Mike McCarthy. I'm looking forward to that. Known Mike, obviously, for many years since his days in Green Bay. So that will be a nice, just a chance to catch up with him. And we'll have some, I would assume, some interesting answers coming up there. So, and then Thursday, and then also tomorrow, the Packers get in here to Pittsburgh. I mean, let's not forget, we're covering the Packers.
Right.
So when they get here, that'll be fun. And then the Packers and Steelers go at it on Thursday night. So this is a great trip. A lot. Very productive, a lot of opportunity, but kind of one you look forward to as well, with the history with Aaron Rodgers and the history with Mike McCarthy that I've had personally, and then, of course, the Packer fans have shared. It's neat to be catching up with these guys and presenting their stories currently.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we can't wait to tune in this afternoon to see what you put together, and hopefully you'll continue to join us this week on the Wisconsin Live Desk as you guys wait for that first preseason game coming up here now, 2 days away on Thursday.
Awesome, Haley. Yep, nice talking with you today, and we'll hope to do it again.
All right, it's a plan. Tim Van Voren, our sports director, there joining us live from Pennsylvania. I'll pull up the graphic again. He's got live reports for you really all week long, leading up to that preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Thursday night at 6 p.m., but he'll be joining us again tomorrow, as well as the Packers finally arrive there. We'll learn more about that Mike McCarthy sit-down and get you all kind of ready to go for this preseason. And if you're like Aaron Rodgers and you don't like the preseason, regular season starts September 13th. Can't wait for football season to be kicking off here shortly. We'll take a quick break here on the Live Desk. Be back with more news right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:18 on your Election Tuesday. I'll pull our polls close countdown back up here. 6 hours, 40 minutes, and 55 seconds to go and vote in this primary election. Polls will close at 8 p.m. Here in Wisconsin. As a reminder, you just have to be in line at 8 p.m. As long as you are in that line, you'll be allowed to cast your ballot. I know everyone's schedules are different. I had some of my coworkers who are able to to. They went before work to vote, and now they're wearing their stickers around the station. For me, polls were not open before I started work, so I'll be heading there right after my shift to go and cast my ballot, do that civic duty. But as a reminder, if you are going, again, they are open right now until 8 p.m. You do need to bring a photo ID with you. If you are thinking, oh, I wish I had registered in advance, I never got to it, now I can't vote, you would be wrong. You absolutely can still register day of here in Wisconsin. You just need to bring proof of residence with you to the polls. Actually, I registered the day of back in February when we had an election. And it was a pretty easy process. I had a utility bill with me. I had one other kind of proof of residency, and they registered me on the spot, and I was able to cast my ballot. So that is an option for you here in Wisconsin. As I mentioned, your vote still counts if you are in line by 8 p.m. So if you're thinking, you know, you're running to try and cast your ballot, you get in line, it's 8:02. Oh man, you missed it. You didn't miss it as long as you're in the line at 8. Again, they cannot turn you away. You will still be allowed to cast your vote. Absentee ballots, they must be delivered to a polling station by 8 p.m. So if you requested one and you were going to mail it in, no longer put that in your mailbox. Bring it yourself, again, to a polling station to make sure that your ballot gets counted. And again, you can only vote in one party's primary. This is a partisan primary. However, you can't vote in both kind of gubernatorial races. So let me pull up the candidates. That will help us kind of explain this better. Again, when you go and vote, if you're voting on the Democratic gubernatorial race, you're voting, you know, Democrat here in the primary, you will see all 7 of these names. 3 of these candidates withdrew their campaigns, but it was too late to be taken off the ballot. These are the 4 Democrats still in the running. So if you want to vote, again, in the Democratic kind of gubernatorial race, you would vote for one of these 4 candidates. It's between Joel Brennan, David Crowley, Francesca Hong, and Kelda Royce. Or you can vote on the Republican side, which would be voting between Tom Tiffany or Andy Mansky. Just want to reiterate one more time, you cannot vote in both. And if you do, your ballot will not be counted. So just make sure in advance you know which party you want to vote for down the line. And that is how the partisan primary does work. Certainly, we have been following the candidates and what they've been up to today. We did see and catch David Crowley here voting. He went earlier this morning. Looks like he brought his daughter with him to cast his ballot. Again, David Crowley, kind of a part of the shakeup that this race saw. He suspended his campaign, actually endorsed Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez. Then when Sarah Rodriguez dropped out of the race after some kind of financial discrepancies and her campaign manager came to light, that is when David Crowley decided to re-enter the race. And when he re-entered that race and he brought back his campaign, Governor Evers decided to endorse him. That endorsement was something that all of these candidates were really after for quite some time. We know Joel Brennan had mentioned that he had called Governor Evers asking for an endorsement. Mandela Barnes, obviously the former lieutenant governor to Governor Evers. Sarah Rodriguez, the current lieutenant governor to Governor Evers. So it was a bit of a surprise when about a year into the race, Evers did decide to join the campaign kind of process here by endorsing David Crowley. He spent the last week or so going to different campaign events with David Crowley, really spending a lot of his time kind of speaking out against Francesca Hong and why Governor Evers does not think that she would be the best candidate. Certainly Francesca Hong has had her own response to that as well. We did actually hear from Francesca Hong earlier today. She also went and voted today, casting her ballot, and afterwards she did chat with the media for a little bit. So we'll go ahead and listen in to what she had to say earlier today after she voted in Madison.
It's always an exciting day.
Have you spoken to Evers?
I've not spoken to the governor yet. It's quite early. I want to let him have his coffee first.
Are you concerned, though? It's been a tough primary. Do you need a united party number? Can you get everybody back on the same team?
We need a united party. We are ready to unite not just the party, but working class people all across the state to defeat Tom Tiffany in November.
Do you feel like your policies are the future of the Democratic Party?
I think our policies are ones that are solutions to deliver for working class people, permanent stability, so we don't come back to moments like these. I think the Democratic Party, we are a big tent party. There's always room for more people.
Who would you look to?
prepared for this intense pushback that you've received, especially from Republicans framing you as far too extreme for Wisconsin?
What's extreme is Congressman Tiffany, a longtime D.C. resident, has voted Wisconsin over again. What's extreme is that he's an election denier. What's extreme is he continues to protect Epstein and pedophiles. What's extreme is that he has voted to help raise gas prices and make life harder.
Again, listening in here to Francesca Hong's answers after getting to cast her ballot in Madison. Apologize, the audio there a little bit glitchy, but obviously she was kind of asked there even about, people labeling her as more of an extreme candidate, and her response there was that she doesn't seem to think that she's an extreme candidate, but that would be Tom Tiffany. Again, this will determine today who is the Democrat candidate and who is the Republican candidate in November. That's after that election we'll know who is actually the next governor of Wisconsin. We've seen Tom Tiffany, who again is the front runner for Republicans. He has vastly led a lot of the polls heading into the election today. Spent a lot of his time, instead of campaigning against Andy Mansky here, who he's running against, instead a lot of his ads are targeting Francesca Hong. So interesting enough to kind of see the priorities that people have taken in this kind of campaign process. And again, later on, we will eventually kind of learn here the results tonight. So you're going to want to stick with us here at Fox 6. As I mentioned, normally we stream for you from noon until 4, which, yes, we are doing right now. I'll be with you until 2. Maddie Stelk taking over then. She'll get you to 4. Then our afternoon newscasts start as normal. That will get you all the way to 6:30. And then at 6:30 until 9, we will continue streaming tonight. Brian Polson will step into our streaming studio. Obviously, that's kind of as the polls will count down to kind of the final hours to go and cast your ballot and ultimately close here at 8 p.m. So Brian will start getting some of those results in for you. But then you can also stay tuned for our evening newscast because when we know these races are being called, we will let you know, of course, right away. Going to pull up here our countdown one more time for when the polls close, but we will be with you from right now all the way and through 10:30 on your primary election day. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be back in 2 minutes because it's not just primary day here in Wisconsin, it's also primary day in Minnesota. So we will get you a live report from there coming up right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:30. Quickly want to take you out to a breaking scene, working to get a lot of things confirmed. But while we were in that commercial break, we saw this man who's now being carried away here by Milwaukee police officers, tackled to the ground. As you can see, we have a reporter here on scene. It looks like some of these officers are wearing U.S. Marshals gear, so maybe some marshals also on scene here. Again, certainly a large police presence. I want to reiterate, we watched that man kind of be tackled to the ground moments ago. Looks like potentially a taser might have been deployed as well. He's now in handcuffs, being escorted to a vehicle. Our photojournalist on scene, I will work to confirm new details about this and bring you right back out to that breaking news scene as soon as we can, but certainly very active right now, and we'll get you some details as soon as possible. In the meantime, we've been talking heavily about the election here in Wisconsin. It is primary day. You still have about 6.5 hours to go and cast your ballot here in Wisconsin, but it is also primary day in Minnesota. So I want to go ahead and bring in Karen Skolin joining us from our sister station in Minneapolis. Karen, appreciate you taking a few minutes ago. Obviously, primary day for you guys as well. I believe you've actually spent some time at some of the polling sites today. How is voter turnout looking so far?
Here it is good. It is actually really good. And there was already signs, though, that there was going to be a nice turnout. Our early voting ballots have been accepted. We're at like 206,000, which beats our 2022 record of 155,000. So this is a pretty hot primary election overall. And I think there's some races here that are really fueling this. Our big one is for U.S. Senate. On the DFL side, it's Representative Angie Craig who's running for Senate, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. And it's a hot race between those two, kind of a moderate versus progressive, the moderate being Angie Craig, the progressive Peggy Flanagan on that one. Their spending on that race has been absolutely crazy. They're already at 27 million. So that's pretty big. But also our U.S. Senate race on the GOP side is really hot. And we've got Michelle Tafoya, who's a former sports broadcaster, Adam Schwarzy, a Navy SEAL, and Royce White. Those three are in the race for the Senate GOP. I think probably Tafoya and Schwarzy are going to be the two to watch in that race. But no Republican has won the Senate since 2002 here in Minnesota. So that will be a really interesting one to watch. Our other big race is going to be the race for governor right now. We've got we've got Kendall Qualls, who's run in a few things before in the past, so he's up again. Lisa Damuth, she's currently our Speaker of the House. She's a strong candidate. And Mike Lindell, who you may be familiar with, he's the pillow guy, my pillow guy. He is Trump endorsed, so when that happened, he did get kind of a bump in the polls. We'll have to see how that one plays out, because some of Republicans say they're not too sure about him. They're going to probably go with Lisa Damuth, but certainly a good one to watch. And then on the DFL side for governor, we have Senator Amy Klobuchar. I think she's pretty much the given candidate on the DFL side, on the Democratic side of things. So a lot of hot races here, really bringing people out to the polls. Also, what people are talking about is the DOJ is monitoring two counties here today, Hennepin and Ramsey. Hennepin has Minneapolis, Ramsey County has St. Paul here. And the DOJ is watching the watchers. It's really not unusual. I think people are more aware of it this time around because of the Metro ice surge that we had way back when in the wintertime. Some people are kind of upset, so they're suspicious of the DOJ and some of the feds, that kind of thing. But they do this all the time, and they are doing it in conjunction with the Secretary of State's office. So they're kind of watching the watchers in Hennepin and Ramsey County. They are not allowed inside the polling locations, only outside, and they're kind of inconspicuous. You probably won't even notice them. They're just kind of there, like I said, to make sure everything goes smoothly. They want transparency, that kind of thing, as the poll watchers do. So a lot going on here. It's definitely a big day, and a lot of nail biting, I think, for both sides in some of these big races, Haley.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of interesting just to hear some of the comparisons we can actually draw between Wisconsin and Minnesota when it comes to obviously this primary election day. You mentioned in the kind of U.S. Senate race with the Democrat candidates, you've got kind of that moderate versus progressive, a very similar story to what we're seeing with the Democrats running to be the gubernatorial candidate here in Wisconsin, kind of waiting to see how that shakes out. Obviously, you also have the gubernatorial race there on your ballot the way that we do. I just want to make sure I understand right. You guys do the same thing we do in Wisconsin, where the voters can have to kind of choose between voting in the Republican race or the Democrat race. Is that right for Minnesota too?
Yeah, exactly. You can choose. You can be on one side of the ballot or the other, Republican or Democrat. You do have to choose when it comes to the primary. So that'll be interesting to watch. One thing I didn't mention earlier, when it comes to the U.S. Senate race on the Democratic side, our governor, of course, is still Tim Walz for now. His wife, Gwen Walz, actually endorsed Angie Craig and not the governor's lieutenant governor, which is Peggy Flanagan. There's kind of been some kind of a rub or bad blood between his wife and Flanagan, I believe, from the beginning, from a long time ago, that's just kind of carried over. And Governor Walz did not endorse anyone. So it's kind of an interesting one to watch there, just because the governor's wife did endorse not the lieutenant governor, but rather Angie Craig. State Representative Angie Craig, who's now running for Senate.
Interesting for sure with that endorsement. I know here in Wisconsin, Governor Evers stayed pretty quiet for about a year here. Obviously, a lot of people know Governor Evers. His current lieutenant governor was in the race at one point. His former lieutenant governor was in the race at one point. Ultimately, he decided to back David Crowley. But again, that took about a year for him to finally give out an endorsement. So always kind of interesting to see when they give one, when they don't, and when it is a surprising pick here in your case. So we really do appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We know your station will be busy this evening as the results come in, just like we will. And again, it's just crazy to think we're here at primary election day.
I know, the summer went fast and here we are. So we'll be watching you guys and you'll be watching us. So
absolutely.
We'll get it done.
Thank you so much, Karen, joining us again there from our sister station in Minneapolis, as it is also Election Day in Minnesota. Quickly want to get us back out to this breaking news scene. Again, we, in a commercial break, just saw a flurry, really, of law enforcement officers kind of tackle one guy to the ground. Then we watched that man be handcuffed and escorted into a vehicle, presumably taken away here. As you can see, we do have police tape up. I believe this is 82nd and Fibrance, just north of Capitol. Police rescue vehicle. I know I saw some U.S. Marshal gear as well on the scene, but certainly a large police response right now in Milwaukee. We did see a man tackled to the ground, ultimately taken away. As you can see, we do have our photojournalist here on scene, still seeing flashing lights, still seeing a lot of just vehicles here, a lot of officers here, even that one, U.S. Marshals with kind of a shield that he's carrying. So again, as soon as we have anything confirmed, we are going to let you know the very latest on this breaking news right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. In the meantime, we'll take a quick break and then we'll get you right back out to some more news. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:40 on your Tuesday afternoon. I want to get us back out to a breaking news scene. Again, this is at 82 and Free Brants, which is just north of Capitol, where there has been a large police response here outside of a home. As you can see, our photojournalist on scene and just a lot of police officers here. We did see some U.S. Marshals as well, some tactical gear as far as different shields. At one point, it looked like maybe a taser had been deployed. When we were in a commercial break, we saw a man kind of be tackled to the ground. And then when we got back, we showed you that he had been handcuffed and was being escorted into a squad car. So again, certainly an active scene outside this home. This is 82nd and Febrants. We have our photojournalist, Tim, here on scene. As soon as we have more details, we will absolutely bring you right back out here. Actually, I just got some information from our photojournalist. He says that the suspect was shot with a less than lethal and a flash bang while he was outside. He was yelling at police to shoot him, and it appears police have since cleared that home. So again, our photojournalist right now on scene, all we know is that a man has been detained and taken into custody. As soon as we have additional details, we're going to bring them to you right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. In the meantime, our other big story of the day, it is primary day here in Wisconsin. We just got to hear how primary day is going in Minnesota. And now we're going to check in with our very own Brett Lemoyne joining us here from Waukesha. And Brett, we can see you proudly displaying that I voted sticker. So I guess let's start with, how did the process go for you? Hopefully it was rather smooth this morning to cast that ballot.
Well, it was, Haley, and I did it right after we had our morning meeting. I think you were there for it. And right after our morning meeting, at 9:45, I stepped out of the car, because I've been here all morning long, and went into the Expo Center here, which is my polling place in the city of Waukesha. Take a guess, from the moment I set my timer, from the moment I stepped in the front door to the moment I stepped out, what's your guess?
Okay,
How long?
I'm going to go with 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Very precise.
Wow, you're way over.
Oh, man.
Way over. 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
In and out. And I was told that I was the 342nd overall voter and the 48th in my ward. And again, that was just at 9:45 this morning. Now, I haven't checked in recently as to what the numbers are right now after the noon hour here, but I can tell you that based on what I recall from when I voted here in the April election, in the spring election, it's higher than that, but obviously it's still pretty low compared to, you know, a general election for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting. We just got to chat with Karen out of our Minneapolis sister station, and she was actually saying they're seeing good voter turnout. So we'll have to see at the end of the day how things kind of panned out here in Wisconsin. Talk to me a little bit more about Waukesha County and what's kind of on the ballot, because I know we have heavily focused on the gubernatorial race, but there are some other races that people will be voting for as well.
Yeah, and here in Waukesha County, it's the sheriff's race. It's a Republican primary for the sheriff's position for Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. There is no Democratic challenger, so whoever wins today, either John Gescheidmeyer or Nick Ollinger, will go on then to essentially win come November and be in the position by next year.
Yeah. Brett, when you've been here, have you seen kind of a lot of voters? Have you had the chance to chat with them on what kind of brought them out to the polls, maybe what race they really wanted to make sure their voice was heard in?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously here in Waukesha County and anywhere you're going to be voting for today, right? It's a primary that is split for either the Republicans you can vote for, or you can vote for the Democrats. You can't cross over. That was kind of a big issue here. We've been hearing a lot of Republicans saying that they were going to switch over, vote for Hong in the gubernatorial primary in an effort to kind of boost her up, because the thought is amongst Republicans that Tom Tiffany can easily beat her come November. for all the talk that we heard about that, and even I had asked both of the sheriff candidates when we did profiles on them a few weeks ago what their thoughts were on that crossover voting. They were against it, for the record, both of them. But for all that talk, we haven't heard from a single Republican voter who said they've crossed over and voted in the Democratic primary. They've pretty much been aligned with their individual parties, Republicans coming out to show support not only for Tom Tiffany, but also for this sheriff's race, where it's a little bit more of a tough decision for them because, again, it's two Republicans that are on the ballot for Waukesha County Sheriff. But on the flip side of that, Haley, we did speak with some Democrats who also came out today to vote here in Waukesha. One young woman telling us that she was very excited to vote for Francesca Hong. She believes that not only will Hong win today, but it will also be an easy victory for her come November. What was interesting from her perspective is, I said, what's the big issue? What is the concern that you have that is kind of putting you in the Hong camp? And she told us data centers. That was one of the biggest issues that she had, that she said Francesca Hong will be able to kind of curb the number of data centers and create some stricter regulations around them. That was her number one issue, Haley.
It is, always surprising to hear what matters the most to people. Certainly it makes sense why they ultimately make their decisions for which candidate they're going to vote for. Very interesting point for you. We were talking to Jason Calvi actually yesterday on the Wisconsin Live Desk about the strategy that can go into a partisan primary. To your point there, well, people will decide to cross over party lines, vote for Democrats, maybe instead of the Republican candidates if they are Republican, thinking long term into November, how can I boost, Tom Tiffany here? But to your point, well, if you're going to do that in Waukesha County, you're not going to be able to vote for your Republican sheriff's candidate. So there's a lot to consider here on what you're going to do when you go and you vote on primary day, and ultimately what's more important to you. Is it the sheriff race? Is it the gubernatorial race? Obviously, if you're a Republican in Waukesha County, something to consider here. So an interesting point you're making here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. And I guess encouraging news as well for anyone thinking they were going to go to vote today and that it was going to take them a very long time. Brett Lemoyne here to set the facts straight. Less than 5 minutes you were in and out. That's impressive, Brett.
Less than 5 minutes. Now, we did see there was a storm that rolled through late this morning, right? That maybe kind of deterred some people from coming out. We did notice just from the parking lot, from a non-scientific, strictly visual perspective, that there was kind of a lull from around 10:30 to maybe 11:30-ish because of the rain. But for the most part, it has been a pretty steady stream, albeit, a thin stream of people coming in to vote today. But it has at least been a constant stream of people, which I think has been encouraging. We spoke with one voter, Haley, who said, you know what, it doesn't matter. He declined to tell us who he was voting for or in what party in this partisan primary that he was voting in. But he did say no matter what, it's important to come out and vote. We also heard from some other folks today, Haley, who said for the Democrat side, who told us, their partners voted absentee. Unfortunately, they had a change of heart since they voted, and now it's obviously too late for them. So it's been kind of a mixed bag. There's a lot of people here who say that we've heard from who said, you know what, normally I do vote absentee, but I was so undecided right up until today as to who I was going to vote for that I made it a priority to come out here and vote. So it's been really interesting to hear the reasons behind how people are voting, when they're voting, and obviously their strategies, as you had mentioned, with that crossover voting as well.
Obviously, we've heard from some people who did vote absentee a while ago, and now they voted for candidates, at least in the gubernatorial race, who maybe are no longer in the running. So to your point, we've seen so many shakeups. It's just been a harder election to kind of make some decisions as a voter. So certainly interesting conversations you're having with those voters on what's been different for them this election cycle. But Brett, we appreciate you joining us here on the live desk, taking a few minutes after chatting with voters, and as we see, voting yourself, doing your civic duty, and on the clock, which I think was an amazing move that you made there, Brett.
Well, it is legally, I believe employers are supposed to allow for time for employees to vote.
Yes, I think you're right, and you took advantage of that, and I'm proud of you for that, Brett. Brett Lemoyne reporting for us live in Waukesha County. Again, certainly a couple of races that they're following there, and again, we will have results for you come this evening. Did want to just pull up a couple of details in case you are heading to the polls. Again, you have until 8 p.m. tonight. You do need to bring a photo ID with you. Again, you can register day of, so if you are still not registered, that's A-okay. You can still cast a ballot. You'll just need to bring some proof of residence with you, but they will register you at your poll, at your kind of voting location at that site. And again, just get in line by 8 p.m. Even if you haven't cast your ballot by 8 p.m., if you are in that line, you cannot be turned away. If you maybe requested that absentee ballot, but you never got it in the mail, you're thinking it's too late, you can bring that with you. You just need to now deliver it to the polling station. So don't put it in the mailbox. Make sure it gets to that polling site by 8 p.m. And a quick reminder, you can only vote in one party's primary. That's kind of that strategy we were talking about with Jason Calvi, and again there with Brett Lemoyne. You can either vote in the Democrat races or in the Republican races. You cannot cross over, and if you do cross over, your ballot will not be counted. So you're going to have to decide beforehand, am I going to vote for the Democrat candidates or am I going to vote for the Republican candidates? They'll both be on your ballot, but again, stick to one side or your ballot is not going to count. As I mentioned, we are extending our streaming coverage for you today. The Wisconsin Live Desk going to be back from 6:30 p.m. until 9 p.m. hosted by Brian Polson, of course, our investigative reporter who just has a wealth of knowledge. He'll be providing election day analysis for you. We've got polling information. And again, after that 8 o'clock hour, potentially even getting you some results here on that extended edition of the Wisconsin Live Desk. And if the results don't quite come in by 9 p.m., have no fear. We'll have you covered in our evening newscast. So we'll be on all the time from right now through 10:30 here on Fox Local. So definitely stay with us. We've got you covered here on your primary election day. We'll take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be back with more news right after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Haley Spittler here with you at 1:55. I'll be with you for about the next 5 minutes, and then Maddie Stelk is going to take over, get you all the way to 2 o'clock here on your primary election day. We have been talking a lot about the election, but I don't want to forget that it's also the Wisconsin State Fair. So a couple of reminders if you are heading out today, maybe this afternoon or evening. One, be weather aware. Thankfully, we definitely avoided a lot of the severe weather risk we were worried about for this morning and early afternoon. But there still is the chance of a pop-up shower. So definitely I would recommend having that FOX6 Storm Center app. But otherwise, you can go from right now until 10 p.m. That is the case for any weeknight. If you go back this weekend as it kind of ends kind of the state fair, you can be there all the way until midnight. That is so impressive to me that they stay up that late. I can't imagine having the energy, but I know some of you guys do. So it is open on the weekends until midnight. Otherwise, ticket prices for you, adults $20, youth are going to be $13. Kids 5 and under are completely free. Wondering who the headliner is for tonight? It's the Isley Brothers with the Commodores. Lots of good tunes there. I know sometimes maybe the name you think, I don't know them. And then I Google them and I go, oh, I do know actually a handful of songs from both the kind of main act here as well as their opener. And just getting you ready again for tomorrow, August 12th, Wednesday, John Mulaney. So a little break from the music acts. We'll go and have a comedian bringing his Mr. Whatever tour to the main stage. Again, that is tomorrow, August 12th. Tickets still available for both of those. So if you are really being drawn to either of those shows, maybe both of those shows, you can go and get your ticket right now. As a reminder, we're also monitoring some breaking news. I don't have a current live feed of it for you, but something that Maddie will stay on top of. Again, we have our PJ, our photojournalist right now at 82nd and Fee Brantz, which is just north of Capitol. When he was on scene, there was a very large police presence. There was U.S. Marshals also on scene. There was some gear deployed as far as big shields. We know it sounds like kind of a non-lethal shot was fired at a suspect who we watched then be tackled to the ground. Ultimately, that man was handcuffed and taken into custody. So we are now working behind the scenes to kind of learn what exactly went down. And as soon as we have that information confirmed, you'll be the first to know right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Other big story we continue to track, that is Election Day here in Wisconsin. Just want to remind you one more time, because it's Election Day, we're bringing you extended coverage. So Wisconsin Live Desk every single weekday goes from noon until 4. Still doing that today. Again, Maddie's still going to take over here momentarily, get you to 4 p.m. But today we're coming back from 6:30 until 9. That is going to be hosted by Brian Polson, our investigative reporter. He'll bring you polling information. He will bring you analysis. We will have early vote totals after polls close, because again, they close here in Wisconsin at 8 p.m. And as those results start to roll in, we're going to let you know what they are. Obviously, I know a lot of people invested in the gubernatorial races here, especially the kind of Democrat candidates who are all vying to be the nominee come November. So again, we've got you covered here on the Live Desk all day long. On Fox Local specifically, we'll be on from right now through 10:30. And so don't worry, we've got you covered when it comes to Election Day. I do see Maddie Stelk kind of standing by. She is ready to take over. So in the meantime, we're going to head out live to Massachusetts, testimony continuing in the Lindsay Clancy trial. I do want to warn you, this trial is a difficult one to sometimes hear the details of. Lindsay Clancy is a woman who is accused of killing her 3 young children, and she has not denied that in this case. But she is saying that she was not in the proper mental state when it happened. She was suffering from what her team kind of says from a psycho issue, from postpartum depression, and wasn't aware of what she was doing. She had kind of sought help for these issues, is what her team has said. So we've heard from a lot of the caregivers who took care of Lindsay Clancy. We've heard from different, again, just medical experts here as the prosecution has continued to make their case. They're in their 3rd week of testimony. So we will listen in here for just a couple of minutes while Maddie kind of logs in, gets ready, and then she'll get you all the way to 4 p.m. here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be back with you tomorrow at noon.
Record where it says that on December 7th.
7th,
Yes.
okay.
Okay. And that's where you talked about bipolar spectrum disorder, right?
Yes.
And that's where you talked about how people would have these feelings of goal-directed activity, overly talkative, racing thoughts, need for sleep, things of that nature, right?
Yes.
What was the end result of that? Did you prescribe medication for her?
I did.
And what was it?
Seroquel.
One of the things that you had mentioned is that you provided a mood chart, I think. Is that what you said? A mood chart? Is this it? Is that an indication just so the jurors know that it's in the records? It's a horrible.
That looks accurate, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is, right there. See on the very top it says mood chart? To the left?
Yes.
All right, and on the top it says daily mood chart. And then you also provided another chart on that date. What is that? That's another variation of it?
It's the weekly mood chart.
Okay. So did you tell her to fill this out?
I suggested that she fill it out so we could keep track of her symptoms.
Okay. Do you remember if she filled it out when she spoke to you?
She did not speak to me about filling it out. After that, she did say she printed it out.
Okay. Did you ever ask to see it?
I don't recall.
Okay. On December 1st, you met with her, is that right? Oh, no, wait a minute. Christine Zappi. Who's Christina Zappi?
I believe she's also someone that works at South Shore Medical Center.
All right. Do you know that she saw Christine Zappi on December 1st? Christina. I'm sorry. It says Christina.
I'm not sure if she saw her for a visit that day.
Okay. Have you seen in the pool of records that you have that she did see this individual and noted that she had been dealing with the problems, the insomnia symptomology, for over a month and a half, and medications keep changing, and it doesn't seem like much is helping. Did you ever see that?
That does sound familiar.
Okay, so she was somewhat this is almost hand in glove with saying, I'm not being heard, right? Same
Yes.
idea? Did you see her on December 2nd, the next day?
I spoke to her on December 2nd.
Okay. And again, the district attorney kept asking you about, she had the opportunity to come in and see you if she wanted to and things of that nature, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that it's sometimes better to have a face-to-face actual meeting with a patient rather than just on the computer?
Yes.
Did you ever, if you recall, with all of the symptomology and deterioration going by week after week, say to her, I really think that we should get together in person?
Yes. So we met in person on the 6th, and our plan had been to meet in person on the 13th.
Okay. So that would be December 6th, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, December 2nd, you had a conversation with her on the phone. Is that right?
I believe it was just my chart messages.
Okay. So you see on where it says, again, it's got the big black letters, December 2nd, 22, and then underneath it, it says behavioral health history. Can you find that on your records? If you don't, that's fine. That would be the time that she indicated that she had been to the ER for anxiety symptoms as well as insomnia and heart palpitations. You remember that?
I don't see that.
Okay, well, then let's get it. Do you have access to other staff notes and records, right?
I do. I only brought my own.
Okay,
with me.
that
Yeah.
answers that. So if I approach you,
Yes.
Can I see what you're showing her first? Sorry.
sure. Let's look at it. Yeah. Latasha Dukes. Who's Latasha Dukes?
Letitia Dukes was a clinician at our program at the time.
All right. So am I looking at Letitia Dukes, MSW? What does that mean?
Master of Social Work.
All right. And does that indicate a date that Ms. Dukes saw Lindsay?
December 2nd.
All right. And on December 2nd, again, she was complaining of symptomology, she meaning Lindsay, having heart palpitations, right?
She's describing that she had heart palpitations and she went to the ER for anxiety symptoms.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
And that she then went to the ER, and per a patient's report, she has an addiction to Ativan, and that's why she can't sleep. And she also noted had weight loss, right?
Correct.
And panic attacks, right?
Correct.
So she's got a fear that she's on the benzodiazepines by script that she didn't want to be on, and she couldn't sleep, and she was losing weight, and all the other symptomology that we talked about, right?
Correct.
And that's in December.
Yes.
December 5, Nicole Hayden-Francis had a chance to speak with Lindsay. And at that point, there was a recommendation that she might want to try INPT LOC. What does that mean?
Inpatient level of care.
Okay. And that would be Nicole Hayden-Francis, who's a nurse, was telling her that on December 5?
Yes.
Now, and again, I know you don't have the records from Letitia Dukes, so if I may approach.
You may.
On December 5, and you correct me if I'm reading these wrong, this would be Letitia Dukes, December 5, right?
Correct.
Okay. And on that occasion, Letitia Dukes notes that she called Aspire Crisis Support, she meaning Lindsay, right?
Yes.
What is Aspire Crisis Support?
Aspire is the community mental health program that operates the local 24-hour emergency services program for psychiatric emergency services.
Okay. So when I say you collectively, I mean psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, RNs in the psychiatric world, tell patients that are in crisis that if you feel that you're going to have suicidal ideation or anything, you should call these numbers, is what you people will give them, right?
Yes.
All right. She called Aspire Crisis Support, not once but twice, right?
And this is live right now in Massachusetts, day 11 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. She's the woman accused of murdering her 3 children by strangling them back in January. Right now, Lindsay Clancy's nurse practitioner is facing cross-examination from Clancy's defense attorney. Now, the defense has been arguing in this case that Lindsay Clancy suffered from postpartum psychosis. She's pled not guilty to these charges here that she is facing, and again is accused of murdering her 3 children by strangling them to death. We're going to take a quick break from that trial here, get things set up and reset. Big day here in Wisconsin with the primary election. We're going to bring you more on that and continue our coverage when we come back. Stay with us.
Wisconsin Live Desk.
Happy Election Day, everyone. I'm Maddie Stelk here with you for the next 2 hours. We're going to be focusing heavily on that. Let's take a look. Poll is closing in 5 hours, 49 minutes, at about 15 seconds here. A lot of people planning on probably heading to the polls after the workday ends in just a few hours today. We do have extended coverage here on Fox Local. We're going to be with you, bringing you updates and results all the way through 11 o'clock tonight and maybe even beyond if we need to, as we follow the races here in Wisconsin. The biggest, of course, being the gubernatorial race, where we're seeing these candidates on your ballot in the Democratic primary right here. We've got Joel Brennan, David Crowley, Francesca Hong, and Kelda Roys also on your ballot. The three candidates at the bottom but have since dropped out of that race. So we do have 4 Democrats actively in this race right now. And then if you do decide to vote in the Republican primary, Tom Tiffany and Andy Mansky on your ballot. We know Tom Tiffany does have the endorsement from President Trump here. Trump actually just tweeted a couple hours ago telling people to vote for him and to vote in this election today, as well as the race in Minnesota as well. President Trump has endorsed Mike Lindell, the former CEO of MyPillow, in that race as well. So several elections that we're following, not just in Wisconsin, but also across the United States, including Minnesota. I know I spoke with our sister station a few hours ago talking about the race and what's at stake there. But a lot happening here in Wisconsin, and a lot that we are going to be following heading into tonight. Again, the polls do close at 8 o'clock. We've seen several of the candidates already casting their ballots today. This is Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley casting his ballot right here, as you can see. We also caught up with Francesca Hong, who is the front runner in this race right now. She cast her ballot early this morning in Madison, and then as she was walking out, reporters were able to stop her, and she had about a 4-minute gaggle with them where several questions were asked about the race and with her campaigning as a Democratic Socialist. She answered all of those questions. So let's take a listen and hear what she had to say.
Have you spoken to Evers?
I've not spoken to the governor yet. It's quite early. Have his coffee first.
In November, can you get everybody on the same team?
Looks like we may be having some audio issues here.
We are ready to unite the party, working class people, all Tom Tiffany.
Do you feel like your policies are the future of the Democratic Party?
I think our policies are ones that are the solutions to deliver for working people and affordability, so we don't come back to moments like these. The Democratic Party, we are a 10th party.
Looks like we're having some audio issues there, so while we work on that, just to bring you some facts about the race this year and for today and why it's so significant for today. So one thing that we do know, okay, I'm hearing from our producers that we may have the audio working right now, so we are going to try one more time. This is State Representative Francesca Hong speaking to reporters after casting her ballot. We know that she is the front runner right now, and the polling numbers show that she is in the race for Wisconsin governor in this Democratic primary. So let's take a listen.
It's an exciting day.
Have you spoken to Evers?
I've not spoken to the governor yet. It's quite early. I want to let him have his coffee first.
Are you concerned, though? It's been a tough primary. Do you need a united party in November? Can you get everybody back on the same team?
We need a united party. We are ready to unite not just the party, but working class people all across the state to defeat Tom Tiffany in November.
Do you feel like your policies are the future of the Democratic Party?
I think our policies are ones that are the solutions to deliver for working class people, permanent affordability, so we don't come back to moments like these. I think the Democratic Party, we are a big tent party, and there's always room for better policies and always room for more people.
Do you think you were prepared for this intense pushback that you've received, especially from Republicans framing you as far too extreme for Wisconsin?
What's extreme is Congressman Tiffany a longtime DC congressman, has voted against the interests of Wisconsinites over and over again. What's extreme is that he's an election denier. What's extreme is he continues to protect Epstein and pedophiles. What's extreme is that he has voted to help raise gas prices and make life harder for Wisconsinites. I think what people of our state are ready for, the good people of Wisconsin, are ready for a government that actually puts them first, not Trump.
Who would you hope to campaign with in the...
to win this primary? If you do win, do you need to do anything differently in the next few months than what you've done so far?
We are a grassroots, people-powered campaign. Our campaign is focused on listening to voters all across the state. We will continue to meet voters in every corner of our state and make sure that we're having conversations with folks who didn't vote for us, folks who have questions. I think that you'll see that just like we've been engaged throughout this entire primary, we'll continue to engage with voters in new and innovative, but also just the ways where they feel heard and they feel seen.
Who would you hope to campaign with in the general election if you are victorious tonight in the primary?
Pardon?
Who would you hope to campaign with in the general election if you are victorious tonight in the primary?
I'm more than willing to campaign with leaders in the Democratic Party who see the future for the party is bright here in Wisconsin. They say as goes Wisconsin, as goes the country. I think we'll see a lot of folks interested in what our voters have to say.
For what? If you were to become governor, what would be the first thing you would want to do as governor? Is there any one thing that you would want to do as governor?
We want to make sure that we're calling in a special session for the legislation on a moratorium on data centers.
And what do you say to Democrats unsure about what democratic socialism is? What's your pitch to them, and how do you define democratic socialism?
One that puts people first, where we have our local governments funded. They can fix potholes. They can make sure that we have great schools. The things that we are fighting for, universal child care, the fully funding public schools. You know, today is the day that the Green Bay Packers were founded. They're a publicly owned NFL team. I think that Wisconsin has a proud history of progressivism, and the policies that we are fighting for honor that, but more importantly, they honor working class people who should be first in government.
For voters who fear that this democratic socialism could turn into communism, what would you want them to know?
No. This is a state where we still have a $2.33 tip minimum wage and $7.25 minimum wage. I think it's going to be pretty hard to turn that into socialism soon, but what we can do with this campaign is make sure that we're fighting for the policies that working class people first, and we're fighting for a $20 minimum wage.
That was Representative Francesca Hong this morning after casting her ballot in the Wisconsin primary there. We know that she is the front runner right now for the Democratic side in the race for governor. A little fun fact that if Hong does win tonight, it will be the second time in state history that a woman has won nomination to be a major party candidate for governor. The first was Democrat Mary Burke in 2014, but she did lose to Scott Walker in the general election. So we will be following this race very closely as we head into tonight. I mean, we have got 5 hours, 41 minutes left until the polls do close. We're going to continue following that and bringing you extended coverage right here on Fox Local. After our newscast at 6:30, Brian Polson will be taking over here on the Wisconsin Live Desk to bring you updates just as soon as we get him here in this very closely watched primary in the state of Wisconsin today. So got some breaking news right now. This is at 82nd and Febrance. That's just north of Capitol. We're seeing a very large police presence here. We saw there's an FBI response as well there. As you can see, it's not clear what exactly is going on here, but they have been surrounding and looking towards that residence, that White House that you see right there. We can see about several law enforcement response, several squad cars, as well as we take a look at, this is live right now at the scene. Our photojournalist is there. We do have calls into police and law enforcement, and we'll bring you any updates just as soon as we learn more. I'm going to take a quick break here now on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
The Wisconsin Live Desk.
2:22 on your Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us here on Fox Local. Take a look at this video that we're getting right now. This is from Goldenrod City. It's a collectible store in Twin Lakes showing a smash and grab that happened at their store overnight on Monday. A devastating loss for them. They say that they took over $300,000 worth of product and inventory. They're sharing this video to their social media, hoping people can help identify the suspect of who's involved. I want to bring in our reporter, Ben Hansen, right now, who got the chance to speak with some of the people who work at the store. And Ben, this is just quite a devastating loss for them.
Yeah, Maddie, I'm here right now at Goldenrod City Collectibles here in Twin Lakes. And like you were saying, it was early Monday morning around 2 a.m. front of the store. And like you're saying, they took around $340,000 worth of product in this store. It's been hitting them really hard. The employees in this store having to deal with this, having to clean up the mess that the robbers left here. But they're also finding a lot of hope through their community and the groups of people that they have built up here through the years. I'm speaking with Alan right here and also Eric, the owner of the store. But Alan, I was talking to you earlier. You're one of the store managers. Give me a description of what happened on Monday morning.
Yeah, so this gentleman right here got multiple phone calls around like the 3 to 3:30 hour. The alarm system contacted him right when the break-in happened, but obviously, like most people would be at 2 a.m., he was sleeping. When he woke up, it was a friend of his who contacted him from the police department just saying, hey, you need to go to the store. You know, unfortunately, you'd been robbed. And then as soon as he walks out of the door, the cops were already at his front door as well. So he got to the shop shortly thereafter and to assess the damages and whatnot. And that's kind of when we found out like the severity of the situation, I guess.
And what was your reaction right away? I mean, you were telling me that you got a call earlier in the morning, but you were sleeping. You got here around 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you walked in? What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I did was hug this guy because obviously I couldn't imagine what he's going through. You know, obviously I work here, but this is his stuff, you know, and I've watched him build it from the ground up. So the first thing was to console him and make sure he was doing okay and trying to keep his, you know, mental as positive as possible. My thoughts were just like, wow, it actually happened, I guess. It's a shock factor for sure. You know, you see these other places getting hit online and you just never think to yourself, oh, it's going to happen to our store. And then the fact that it did, it's just like you're at a loss for words for sure at the start of it.
Speak to the fact that this isn't really that rare of a thing. There have been a lot of card collectible stores or collectible stores around the entire country that have been this happening to them.
Yeah, so I mean, within the last, what, you would say year or so, Pokemon has just gone absolutely crazy. Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of people not even necessarily in it for the passion like we are. They're definitely in it to make a profit. You know, you have like finance bros, you know, quote unquote, or like people who are mostly invested in like stock markets actually getting into Pokemon now. So it's driving prices up like crazy. Even for us to find product now, we're having to pay top dollar in order to even supply it to the public. So because of the boom, people are seeing is like a quick get rich quick scheme overnight. So if they can come in and take product, you know, equivalent of about $340,000 and flip it for even $200, you know, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. So I think that's mostly the reason why you're seeing it happen more often than not now.
Yeah. And the viewers got a little look at the damage that happened to their store through the security cam footage we were just watching at the beginning of this segment. But can you kind of take me over there and walk me through what happened?
So this window right here is going to be where they actually broke in. You can see we boarded it up already because these windows were custom made. We're going to start doing a little bit more, obviously, in terms of like solidifying the entryways. But that's exactly where they actually busted the window open. And then this front door, one gentleman came through this window, and then the front door he opened up and allowed everybody else to come in.
Yeah. And I mean, I can already see today we're talking this morning, but you guys already have display cases over there. Can we take a walk over there and you talk about them?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You already got them. What does that feel to say, like, okay, these were broken, but already in the store a little over 24 hours later, you already have these cases. What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, as I was speaking to you earlier today, I kind of told you, we all like to say we have a warrior spirit here, and you're not going to break us. And I think that this is a perfect sign of like we're not going anywhere. This guy, he's so diligent, and he's got so much resilience. We're not going to let a setback get us to close. If their goal was to get us to shut down, it's not going to happen. We're not going anywhere. Goldenrod's here to stay.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about that Goldenrod community. I mean, you guys have game events here almost every night of the week. You have card releases, collectible releases where people line up around the entire block to get a chance to get in here. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think one thing for us is we pride ourselves on being able to sell product at the cheapest rate possible for us. When things come out, and you see that from our community. I think the last pre-release we had over 80 people lined up, and while they were waiting for the store to open, I went out and I gave them some free packs to did like 20 packs for the first 20 people that showed up for them to just open something while they waited for the store to open. I think it's a testament to this gentleman right here and how hard he's worked to build this community, because again, he started from the ground up. He started in like a super small pizza shop, and then to be able to buy your own building 3.5 years later and say that this is mine, this is my spot, I don't have to rent, and I can give back to the community. I mean, we were doing raffles. Our 1-year anniversary was going to be on August 29th. I think we're still going to have that, but we had thousands of dollars worth of product lined up just to give back to the community because they do so much for us. These lights don't stay on without the people showing up to support us.
Yeah. And with the 1-year anniversary come up, like, what is the store, what are you hoping it's going to look like when August 29th, when that comes around, that you can invite people back in here and celebrate? I know you said you're reopening this coming Monday, but what is that 1-year anniversary celebration going to look like?
Man, I just really hope it's a joyous experience for everybody that comes. It's going to be a big moment for us. It's a culmination of all of the hard work that this gentleman has put in and the small part that everybody else gets to do around here. This guy literally doesn't leave the shop, man. He sleeps here. He grinds nonstop. And like I said, I just really hope that he gets to soak it in and, in this dark hour, find some light at the end of the tunnel to see, the community that we've built here.
Yeah, and you were talking about that light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, just the community that you've talked about, it's shown me that they're offering a lot of help to you guys through this time. Can you talk to me about how the community is getting you guys through this rough time in the store?
Yeah, I don't think his phone has stopped ringing since it happened. It's been kind of crazy. You try to pull him away because right now we're actually taking inventory of everything we have just to finalize the losses and see, what we can put back on the shelves from what we have. And it's hard to get him for even 5 seconds because his phone doesn't stop ringing. The shop phone has been crazy. The outpour on social media has been, immensely positive, and I can't thank everybody enough for what they've done and what they've said. Every comment, means a lot. We might not be able to have the time to reach back out to everybody, but just know that, everybody that says something, it truly means the world to us. Shows we're doing something right.
Yeah. And what kind of hope does that give you for the future? Maybe not just in the next 1 or 2 months, but for the next years to come, that you have this strong of a community that's here?
Yeah, it's actually funny. This year was scheduled to be our best year ever as a store. And I told him actually when I got hired earlier this year, I was like, I'm going to make this the best year Goldenrod City has ever had. And we were on pace. And, like I said, this is a minor setback, but, I fully believe that this still will be our best year ever. And moving forward, I only see positive things for us. The thing about this business is when you do it right and you do it the right way and you're right by people, good things happen. And so I'm fully positive that that's going to be the case for us.
Yeah. And talk to me a little bit about the passion you guys have for this job. I mean, like you were telling me, it's been a big reason why you guys have been able to rebound so easily. Tell me a little bit about that passion in the store.
Yeah, funnily enough, our other employee, Kristen, and myself, we left corporate jobs to come do this. And, some people would say, you're crazy. Why would you do that? You're going to sell Pokemon cards for a living. But when it's something you truly love to do, you don't despise waking up in the morning. You can wake up with a smile on your face and be excited to come into work.
Yeah. Well, Alan, thank you so much for your time. It sounds like Goldenrod City Collectibles is well on the way to being rebuilt, even right here in the store. Yes, exactly. Thank you very much for your time. Maddie, we'll throw it back to you.
spirit there at Goldenrod City. That's in Twin Lakes. And it's true, like, you really don't think it'll happen to you until it does. Just taking another look at that video, because it's just so incredible, but also just devastating to see, especially for the owners, I'm sure, when they looked back and saw this. Just, it only lasted about 6 or 7 minutes here. They managed to do all of this, steal $300,000 worth of products and merchandise. Now, we do know that there is a $10,000 reward that is going to be given out for the arrest and conviction of whoever is responsible. So hopefully police and law enforcement are able to figure that out and the right people are held accountable. I want to go back to that breaking news that we were following just before we went to our last break. This is a live look right now at 82nd and Fibrance. We don't know much right now. We know that there is a large police presence here, but we did catch somebody being handcuffed and detained on camera. I'm going to bring you that video now that we did treat here. Take a look. This was just a few moments ago at that scene right now, where somebody looks like was detained there. Very, very intense scene here with police. As you can see, we're watching this live together, you and I, for the first time as we take a look here. This is what it was just a few moments earlier. That scene's still very active today right now. This is just north of Capitol, by the way, but we just saw that man there having an interaction with law enforcement, tense enough to lead to him. It looks like he was tased there and then taken to the ground, as you can see. So we're going to continue to follow this scene right now, but very tense moments just a few moments ago between that man and law enforcement. We do have calls into police. Again, this is a live look right now, so we will bring you any updates just as soon as we learn more. We're going to take a quick break right now on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to continue to bring you any updates we get on that breaking news, as well as some of your election coverage. Our reporter Sam Kramer on his way to Madison right now to cover the campaign for Francesca Hong and her watch party. We know she is the front runner in that race right now, so we'll bring you his report just as soon as we come back. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Going to take you back out to that breaking news scene that we've been following real quick. This is at 82nd and Fibrance right now, just north of Capitol. Just moments ago, we saw a very tense scene between law enfortement and what appeared to be a suspect involved in this situation, but this is still a very active scene. We have treated that video and we're going to show it to you right now. Again, this was just moments ago, that interaction between law enforcement and the man right here. Take a look. This is just a few moments ago this happened. It led up to a very, very tense scene there. As you can see, the man being taken to the ground there and then was later taken away in handcuffs. Now, we don't know much. We do have calls into law enforcement, but we do know that there is a very large response right now in this neighborhood. Taking you back out at this live look, we will continue to bring you updates just as soon as we learn more. We do have a crew at the scene right now who will bring you any updates. We're monitoring this. If anything develops at the scene here, you will be the first to know here on Fox Local. Switching gears right now, pretty big race today during the Wisconsin primary. We've got the gubernatorial race happening right now. We know Francesca Hong has been leading as the front runner in this race in the polls that we've gotten through the Marquette poll, as well as the State Navigate poll last week, showing that she was at 44%. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley in second place right now at 22%, a pretty sizable margin there, marginal difference. We're bringing Sam Kramer right now on the way to Madison for Francesca Hong's watch party. Sam, how's the drive going so far?
It is just fine, Maddie. It's good to be with you. We are coming up on the exit for Lake Mills. So what's that? About halfway? Yeah, about halfway. Photojournalist Tanner Hemker here driving. So I'm riding the front passenger seat, just listening to you guys cover some breaking news and prepared for what we hope isn't too long of a night.
Yeah, and I know it's been a long process for you preparing, kind of analyzing Francesca Hong's campaign here over the past few months or so that we've been seeing this. Kind of talk about her campaign strategy a little bit, because I feel like it's not the traditional route that we've seen things go.
It is an interesting one, and just from the outset, if she is to win today, as all the polls are predicting, it's going to be really interesting to see what she does over the next 3 months. Politics-wise, when you're going into a partisan primary, turnout usually isn't that high. And who these candidates are appealing to is their strongest members of their base, the ones that they know are paying attention because they care about politics, they care about candidates, and they care enough to vote in the middle of August, whatever time of day they choose to go in this partisan primary. So she announced over the last year with this kind of blunt campaign ad. Surely you know by now she is a chef, used to own a ramen restaurant in Madison with her former husband, and placed herself there in the kitchen, was willing to cuss in her ad and just kind of make this blunt introduction about essentially the system isn't working the way it should work, and that everyday people are getting left behind, while special interests, while systems designed not to really benefit them are kind of leaving them behind. So she has a number of policies. A lot of them stem from her work as a state representative, and she is in Madison, so not just because the Capitol is there. That actually is where she lives and works. And a number of those pertain to universal child care. She is staunchly against U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. And in fact, if governor, she says that she would work with the legislature to pass policies that prohibit state agencies from working with ICE, whether that's sheriff's offices and departments, kind of doubling their jails as federal detention centers for people on immigration holds, if it's requiring different warrants and that sort of thing. But she also talks about affordability, and I think that is perhaps where she has resonated with folks the most, I should say, that she really, again, growing and working in the restaurant sector, she understands, at least portrays that she understands that finances are hard right now for a lot of families. And so whether it's childcare, whether it's other business credits and taxpayer credits, really just wants to make life more affordable.
Yeah, I think you hit it home right there on the key issues, because I think a lot of the times people forget about that, because a lot of this race from a national media perspective has been surrounded by ideology. But I think it's also important to be making sure that voters are looking at the key issues that the candidates are standing for as well. As far as social media goes, because I know you were talking a little bit about it too, with how I remember like right out of the gate when you said she she swore, like used profanity in the campaign, a little bit with social media as well, because I feel like her strategy has been a lot different in that way, including that as well. How do you think this appeal is, where do you think she's kind of getting at here with this strategy with social media?
Yeah, there's a couple of things to unpack there. One, it's not like social media hasn't been used before in politics. I mean, look at President Trump. He has gone on and created his own social media platform after prior issues with Twitter, now X. But what Francesca Hong has done is really kind of use that to directly appeal to voters, but less in like a polished politician type of tone, and more of like a, hey, I'm your neighborhood bartender and this is a problem. Here's how we're going to solve this. It's very much a people-to-people campaign. It makes sense based on the type of campaign that they run financially. It is completely grassroots from the election reports, finance reports that we have been able to review, not seeing any major organizational donors at this rate. Why is that interesting? Because if she does go on and win tonight, certainly the state Democratic Party of Wisconsin and you would imagine perhaps the national Democratic Party would want to contribute within the ways that they can because of how important this race is, because of all the ramifications that come with whatever party is in power in Madison, both in the governor's mansion and kind of the executive wing, if you will, of the state capitol, but also the state legislature too. So, she's been really interesting. The other part of social media that we have to talk about, because frankly, the nation's been talking about it, is some of her old stuff. I mean, she was elected to the state assembly over the last couple of years. And right around that time, particularly in the pandemic, she really was unafraid to share her opinions, especially on Twitter, talking about, that police department should be defunded. She has since backed off of that tremendously, saying that, she's evolved as a candidate and that just isn't something that can be done. Though she would like to see certainly some reform when it comes to criminal justice. She talks about Thanksgiving and that she's against Thanksgiving, knowing that it's offensive to some people. Even as far as Culver's cheese curds, and if you're at Culver's thinking, how did we get dragged into this? Saying that she thinks that they are trash and that there are other things on the menu that she likes better. So certainly, and Maddie, you mentioned her ideology. So she's running as a Democrat. It's a partisan primary, so you have to elect one party of which you're going to vote for all their offices. But very much her ideology, identifying as a democratic socialist, has raised alarms at different parts of the Democratic Party. You hear the word electability tossed around a lot. That, okay, a lot of people think, sure, she can win tonight. But is that ideology, is that going to be strong enough to defeat Tom Tiffany, the presumptive Republican candidate, in November? And I think a lot of more moderate, less radical Democrats are really concerned. I think that's why you see Governor Evers throwing his endorsement behind Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and so late in the race, just hours after he re-entered the race, after he dropped out. And so there is very much a schism, if you will, between sides within the Wisconsin Democratic Party. The question is, whoever wins today, how do they bring everybody back together tomorrow and in the next 3 months?
Yeah, I think you hit on a really good point there, because this has not been a smooth race by any means. You had touched on it a little bit. I mean, it started with, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley dropping out and then endorsing the lieutenant governor, and I could go on, and then her ending up firing her campaign manager, and then her dropping out, and then Mandela Barnes dropping out, and then it hasn't been easy by any means to get to the point relatively quicker there. When we talk about endorsements a little bit, who's backed Francesca Hong? Talk a little bit about that, and then maybe some key players you may be looking out for tonight at her watch party.
Yeah, so she has, and we talked about how this is kind of separating sides of the Democratic Party, but it is also kind of a Dane County versus Milwaukee County type of deal. And if you go back and look at the big elections, whether it's presidential or off-year gubernatorial, because they're every two, Dane County has been emerging more as this rock solid liberal stronghold than Milwaukee County has been. And, part of the reason for that, at least historically in Milwaukee, is that, look, it's a bigger population area. And while the suburbs may lean more conservative, certainly the mass of the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee proper, is always going to start Milwaukee County's results far, far toward in favor of the Democrats. So while Governor Evers, while Congresswoman Gwen Moore, and a number of other Milwaukee County electeds are going more toward Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, Francesca Hong's endorsements aren't as strong in that sense. They're more kind of individualized. Now, certainly she has a number of unions that are backing her, the names of which aren't coming to the top of my head right now, but it isn't so much a who's who per se. But on a national scale, the one person that she has aligned with that, in fact, Republicans took and advertised against her in this primary is Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker used to work for the Young Turks organization, now runs his own YouTube and Twitch channels, and has been strongly criticized for things that he has said, things to include America deserved 9/11, but did so far as to host her on a live stream in which he asks her questions. She talks about her campaign. She talks about her priorities, and all the while raising money for her campaign. But then, what was it, a week or 2 weeks ago, last week, I believe, when he actually comes out and campaigns with her for a rally in South Milwaukee, then door knocking in Milwaukee as well. That has certainly caught a ranking member of the Democratic Party attention, because it's not that candidates have gone about winning these races within the last 10 to 20 years. But she would say, well, do we have to do that? And again, it's kind of this new school versus old school type of battle within the Democratic Party that will play out tonight whenever we get results.
Yeah, and for a little behind the scenes, the nitty gritty, if you will, of covering a watch party. For our viewers who may have never been to one before, what is it like?
Okay, good question. It is a marathon. Does that sound right? Yeah. Tanner, my photojournalist, Tanner Hemper's like, oh yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so we started at 2. Well, Tanner started early, picked me up from my house at 2 because he's a true teammate. We're on with you at 2:30. When we get there, we likely will not be allowed in for several hours because it's no different than renting a venue for a wedding or whatever. They're trying to minimize the window by which they have to pay and save some money if they can. So through our Fox partners, we got some video of Francesca Hong voting today. Probably go over that real quick. We're live at 4. Prepare again. We're live at 5. Prepare again. Live at 6. Sometime you would think around 6:30 the doors would open. The rally technically doesn't start until 7:30. Polls close at 8. All the while, we're kind of like mingling, talking with campaign staff, talking with people that are there about what their feelings are, and just kind of being a fly on the wall. Now, mind you, here on Fox Local, Brian Polson's also hosting the election night special, if you will, from 6:30 to 9. So at some point, we'll do a hit with him. Mm-hmm. And then you're just kind of gauging the sense of the room. If she comes about, have we seen her? What's her body language like? What are her supporters like? You're really just kind of observing everything. And then at some point in the evening, whatever channel that they put on, you would presume on the big screen, because we're going to the Atwood Music Hall. It is a concert venue that has a nice big projection screen. So at some point or another, the crowd is going to react. Will it be cheers or will it go more quiet? And certainly when she comes out, there is going to be applause. There are going to be hoots and hollers. But what speech does she give? Is it going to be one of celebration, of momentum, of moving forward to win the general? Or is it going to be one of disappointment and thanking people? And so it's a long night. Primaries, particularly these partisan primaries, though it's a big race, don't have really the strongest turnout, is what municipal clerk said. So what does that mean for us? Polls close at 8. There aren't going to be nearly as many absentee ballots that central count municipalities like the city of Milwaukee, like Green Bay, for example. They can only start those when the polls open due to state law, though that has tried to change. So that's really what slows everything down. But when you don't have so many of those ballots to get through, you kind of speed up the process. And so that is the hope, is that 9, 10 o'clock, somewhere in there, we would have answers. And that's me just maybe optimistically saying, I hope it happens in that time and that it's not particularly any later. So again, the night will kind of end with a speech. We'll wrap up presumably on the air or here on Fox Local if it goes that long, and then drive back and call it a day.
We're manifesting, I think, for you, and I think a lot of people in journalism today are manifesting that we do get those results tonight. Because I know we just saw last week in Michigan when the race for the Senate wasn't even called until the next day. So we are manifesting that. I mean, hopefully, knock on wood, I need to be careful here. But yes, we are manifesting that, Sam. We appreciate you heading out to Madison today. We'll check in with you again throughout our early and evening newscast. We are going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.
The Wisconsin Live Desk.
At the bottom of the 2 o'clock hour here on Fox Local, we're following some breaking news at 84th and Febrance. It's just north of Capitol. Take a look at this video from just a few moments ago showing the tense moments that police and law enforcement there detained a man. This just happened literally within the last few hours that we're seeing here. They're taking him to the ground there now. We do have crews on scene still today where there's still a very active police presence. Bring in our reporter, Durante Matthews, who's there right now. Durante, what are things looking like now out there?
Hey, Maddie, so Milwaukee police tell me that they may be wrapping up here at 84th and Free Branch in maybe the next 15 minutes, but there is still quite a scene here. Now, this is almost an hour, or actually a little more than an hour after that crazy video that you guys saw of Milwaukee police detaining a man. Now, you can still see officers on this lawn here of this white home, but from my understanding, the focus was this tan home right next to this white home that they are right now. There were a couple of officers here who had rifles while they were walking around scene trying to make sure everything was okay. They have since left. You can still see some other officers coming around the home right now with their tools. It looks like they're getting ready to pack this up. So we got on scene, I want to say just before 1:30, maybe around 1:20-ish, when police were outside yelling on a big speaker, telling a suspect inside of that tan-colored home to come out and saying they had a warrant for his arrest. About a couple of minutes afterwards, that suspect came out. He was not wearing a shirt. It looks like he was wearing shorts, and he was on the phone. At one point, we could hear that suspect telling police to shoot him. He ended up throwing something like a white card onto the grassy lawn, while police actually just stood there in somewhat of a standoff position. A little while after that, it looks like police fired something non-lethal. It sounded like a taser, and then seconds later, this huge flash bang that sounded like a firework, and then they immediately tackled that suspect down to the ground, and then they took him into custody, and they've just been securing this area ever since. Like I said, that happened a little bit more than an hour ago. We still see officers here with guns around their necks. We see a couple of them with shields. They're just walking around. Some detectives even across the street over there just in a huddled up position, and we've seen even neighbors just walking around here. It's like a spectacle. So many people are in their cars along the street. Others are on the side of this caution tape where we are right now. Still, from my understanding, just trying to process what happened and just curious about what happens next. Again, I said we just spoke with a canine officer just a couple of minutes ago, and he told us that they may be wrapping up here within the next 15 minutes. But right now we just see officers and police and other officials just walking back and forth on the street, huddling up with each other, passing off information from what happened. From my understanding, after they took that suspect into custody, they went into the home over here to just try to secure the area to make sure that there was no one inside, no one hurt, and that there was really nothing left for them to do at that particular home. We're still waiting for any information on this particular suspect, such as who he is, why police wanted him, what the warrant was for, and is he injured after this takedown that we saw. Again, you guys have the video back at the station. It was crazy, from that flashbang to the takedown, and even that non-lethal deployment of, like I said, it sounded like a taser to get that suspect down to the ground. And right now, officers are just going back and forth to this truck right here that's still parked on the lawn. There's a couple of vehicles to the left of me right here where this area is completely still taped off. You cannot drive past this area to get down the street. Police have it completely blocked off while they're continuing to walk around patrolling everything, and it does look like vehicles are moving. So I'm trying to see if other law enforcement officials are coming in, or these crews. It looks like these crews are now heading out. So that officer did tell me that they're starting to wrap up, and you can see this truck is starting to come off of this lawn right now. So they are going to leave here in a couple of minutes, from my understanding. I was told that there is a lieutenant on scene who can possibly talk to us and share any bit of information that they're able to right now. So we're still waiting on that to happen right now. But yeah, right now this is still somewhat of a spectacle for folks on scene who are out here. There are a couple of neighbors who are out here just watching on their phones right now, talking to one another. I'm assuming sharing the information to other people. right now. We were attempting to talk to some of the neighbors here, but nobody was really comfortable going on camera. And you can see right here, this tactical vehicle is now starting to head out. So the scene will be dying down in the next couple of minutes, from my understanding. And you can see it right here in real time right now. This Milwaukee Police Tactical Enforcement Unit is leaving out right now. Crews are making way for this to head out while they, continue walking around, securing the area, and again, just investigating what they, were sent here for, really. But that's kind of what we're seeing right now. And again, we're going to be on scene for the next couple of hours right now, hopefully trying to talk to that lieutenant who said he can give us any information on what happened, as well as neighbors here who saw the whole thing, who were here before police got here, who can give us that information that we were not here to see, and give us that perspective of somebody who maybe lives here and is seeing something like this, on their front lawns, to their neighbor's home, at their back door. I mean, like I said, there are a lot of people out here just kind of watching in awe, really. It was a really crazy video, as you guys saw right now. So we're interested in knowing what led up to that moment and what brought police out here to even begin with, Maddie.
Yeah, Durante, I'm right there with them. I mean, the video is incredible. I'm going to let you go so you can try to get a little bit more information about what led up to this. But we're going to play that video again for you guys right here on the live desk. It does have sound, so we're going to take a listen. This is just a few moments ago at 84th and Fee Brants.
He ain't good though, but I think they shot him.
As you can see, the suspect is being detained on the ground right there behind that car. This video is going to loop because I want you guys to see the beginning of it and how this all escalated. There they are behind the car detaining the suspect. It is going to loop around so you can see that beginning that Durante was talking about with the loud bang. You can hear the canine as well. And there is that suspect being taken away in handcuffs there. Here it is replaying right now.
Oh, they shot him. Oh. They got it. Oh, no, they got it. I think he shot him. I think he shot him. Yep, he shot him.
So yeah, as you can see right there, just a little bit showing how this all unfolded here, drawing neighbors out of their houses. We do know the scene looks a lot different now. The tactical vehicle we saw live on the Wisconsin Live Desk driving away, Durante said they do appear to be wrapping up there and that there is no threat right now to the public and in the neighborhood from the looks of it. But Durante was saying, and I can only imagine hearing those loud sounds, people coming out of their house trying to figure out what's going on, maybe a little scared too. I know I would be if I were in their shoes after just hearing these sounds here, after seeing this large police presence for hours here. So Durante is on scene, hoping to talk to law enforcement to see if we can get more information about who this suspect is and what the warrant was for that brought all of the law enforcement response to this scene right now at 84th and Fee Brants. Going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but we'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
It is 3 o'clock and happy Election Day. Thanks for being with us here on Fox Local. Taking a look at our clock right now, 4 hours, 51 minutes, about 40 seconds until the polls close at 8 o'clock. Remember, if you are in line at 8, then you will be able to vote. I want to bring in our political analyst, UWM professor Mordecai Lee. Mordecai, I see you've got your voting sticker.
And you don't.
I know I'm going after work today, but great to see. I know you had sent me to a sample ballot to kind of talk about what people will be seeing on their ballots today.
Yeah, I think it's important to look at it because we've underplayed the fact that there are Republican primaries today. So if you look at this photo, the column on the right is the Democratic column, where you see the big race for governor with, 7 names. And in today's election, you can only vote in one party's primary. And so what we underplayed is that if you look at the central column, the Republican column, you see that there are several Republican primaries, not for big offices in the sense that governor is a big office, but that you've got primaries for lieutenant governor, you've got primary for secretary of state, and in our area, which is sort of the northern half of Milwaukee, for Congress. I think it's called the 4th Congressional District. And so when earlier we talked about were a lot of Republicans going to cross over and vote in the Democratic primary, perhaps for malicious reasons to sabotage who the nominee is, I think the fact that there are enough primaries in the Republican primary that more Republicans will be loyal to their party and will want to have an input, for example, who's lieutenant governor. There's such an odd situation in Wisconsin where people run for lieutenant governor and they have a primary for lieutenant governor, but then they get sort of stapled together in the November election, where the governor's candidate of that party cannot choose who his or her lieutenant governor will be. I think that's a real flaw in our system. It's so different from presidential. But in any event, these are important elections. And so yesterday, when Congressman Tiffany encouraged Republicans not to cross over, he referenced the fact that there are some real primaries going on. And for those of you who are in Waukesha County, there's a primary for sheriff. Most people forget that we elect sheriffs on a partisan basis. There are Democratic sheriffs and Republican sheriffs. And Waukesha County, of course, is a relatively Republican county. And with a primary for sheriff, this is an incredibly important office. And so that's one of the reasons that people who like being Republican and identify as Republicans would probably today decide not to cross over and be mischievous, but instead to stick to the Republican column that was shown in the ballot.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up too, because the split ticket voting, it isn't a thing in every state, but it is here in Wisconsin. Why do you think, you talked a little bit about Tom Tiffany yesterday telling people that he's against that idea. Do you think it's for a broader reason than just for people in Waukesha County with the sheriff's race?
Oh, certainly when we looked at the ballot picture, you saw that the lieutenant governor race, where there's a Republican primary, is a Republican statewide race. And similarly, the primary for Secretary of State is a statewide race on the Republican ballot. The congressional one primary is only for the north half of Milwaukee. And then I mentioned we have sheriffs elected on a partisan basis, on a county by county basis. And that's what they have in Waukesha County. I guess a lot of voters can get confused because, there are ticket switches, as you mentioned, Maddie, and that's what happens in November. In other words, in November, hypothetically, you could have a voter who's going to vote for the Republican for, let's say, governor, and then, let's say, for a Democrat for Secretary of State. That's very normal Wisconsin voting behavior. In fact, it was just 2 years ago that Donald Trump, as a Republican, won the statewide race for president, and so did Tammy Baldwin, the Democratic senator who was running for re-election. And so exactly as you described it, Maddie, they're ticket splitters. They voted for president on the Republican side, and they voted for U.S. Senate on the Democratic side. The big difference is today's a primary, and there's no ticket splitting today. You can only vote in one party's primary. And so for voters who are used to ticket splitting in a November election, they sometimes get frustrated on a day like today. Well, why can't I vote in the Democratic primary for governor and then, let's say, in the Republican primary for Secretary of State? Well, the reason is that it's a partisan primary. It's not an open election like the November election. But still, I wouldn't be surprised if the newsroom gets a couple of complaints by people who want to be able to do that on primary day.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because I feel like this primary will maybe garner more attention than ones in the past. So I'm sure people who maybe don't typically vote in a primary are maybe getting out today. So I think you're right in the fact that we may get a few calls for sure. But hopefully they're watching now and will now have no worries there. Talking a little bit more about the gubernatorial race here, do you think Tom Tiffany cares who wins, whether it's Francesca Hong or David Crowley tonight?
Right. I think that's the $1,000 question. The conventional wisdom is that because Francesca Hong identifies as a socialist Democrat, that she's out of a kind of a mainstream of party politics, that she's farther to the left than I guess what we'd call moderate Democrats. And so Tiffany believes that she'd be easier to beat because she's on the farther left silo of the Democratic Party. Now, it might be true that Tom Tiffany is on the farther right of the Republican Party than Wisconsin Republicans like. For example, he was an election denier in 2020. He was very strongly pro-life before Roe v. Wade got repealed. And so I think one can also make an argument perhaps Tom Tiffany has both strengths and weaknesses. So with all the conventional wisdom saying that Hong might be easier to beat by Republicans than, let's say, Crowley, I'm not sure that'll be true when we talk 90 days from now. It's almost like Democrats will coalesce around the Democratic nominee, Republicans around the Republican nominee, and it'll be just like a standard Wisconsin statewide partisan election when it's probably decided by 1% or less. We're such a deep purple state, which is why every vote counts and why swing voters and independent voters essentially are the ones who decide it. Because even today, we could already say, okay, 45% of Wisconsinites are going to vote Republican. They'll vote for Tiffany. And 45% of them are going to vote for whoever wins the Democratic primary tonight. But it's that middle 10%, the swing voters, the moderate voters, the independent voters, they're the ones who are going to decide the gubernatorial election in November.
And we keep hearing that Wisconsin, I keep seeing this in especially national media headlines, Wisconsin is the next test case for democratic socialism. Do you think, in your perspective, do you think that's the right way to look at this race from a local perspective?
You know, sometimes we in Wisconsin reflect sort of national trends. For example, when you look at public opinion polls, are people, generally speaking, whether Democrat or Republican, unhappy about gasoline prices? Yeah. Is President Trump relatively popular, relatively unpopular? Yeah, like national trends, he's relatively unpopular in Wisconsin. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we as Wisconsinites are just identical to everybody else in the United States. And I think there's a bit of a maverick strain in Wisconsin politics that goes back to people like the La Follett's, Bill Proxmire, where we've had people who are a bit out of the mainstream, a bit unpredictable, sometimes more partisan than not. And so whether we have a Democratic Socialist elected in Wisconsin tonight as the Democratic nominee, I think is anybody's guess. It depends about turnout. Maddie, I know you're probably tired. Your ears are tired of me using the word turnout. But when you have a relatively low percentage election like a partisan primary, unlike a presidential primary where about 90% of Wisconsinites vote, or a gubernatorial primary like we're going to have in 90 days where about 75 to 80% of eligible voters are going to vote. Today, it's going to be around 25. That's a pretty low percentage. I'm looking tonight, when I see the result, are we going to at least pop past 1 million votes cast? There have been partisan primaries where it's less than 1 million. I think an average turnout will be indeed about 25%. Maybe the interest in Francesca Hong, whether interest is positive or negative, we might have a turnout that's 27, 28, 29%. But from all of the early indications of polling places today, everything looked relatively average, with the exception of the thunderstorm in midday that probably discouraged some people who like to vote around noon.
I know. I was thinking about, well, of course, I feel like we might be the only ones who are thinking about the storm affecting people voting, but that was my first thought. I was like, oh no, is this going to prevent people from getting to the polls? But things should be clear, hopefully, for later. For people who are, like myself, headed to the polls after work, but especially those in that undecided category, what would you recommend they do if they're sitting in their car and they're like, I still don't know how I want to vote? What would you say is like a last minute way to maybe figure that out and get some clarity?
That's a great question. I think some of them, one can ask them, we know that you don't identify as a Democrat or a Republican, that you consider yourself independent. But when you think about how you voted in the last, let's say, 4, 5, 6 years, have you voted more often than not for a Republican candidate in the November election, or more often than not for a Democratic candidate in the November election? I think that might be an indication to a person, today I'm going to vote in the Republican primary, or today I'm going to vote in the Democratic primary. For the people who really have no partisan inclinations, I think it would be a typical Wisconsinite reaction to say, I want to go to where the action is. I want to be involved in a really important election. And I think there's no denying that the Democratic primary for governor is much more interesting. It's sort of the marquee race today. And that in that case, I would encourage people in good faith to take a look at the people who are on the ballot and decide if there's someone based on advertising, based on mailers, based on door knockers, who they think would be a better representative for Wisconsin Democratic Party to run against Tom Tiffany as the nominee for the Republican Party.
I think that's some good advice there for anybody last minute like myself headed to the polls later today. Mordecai, thanks so much for joining us. No, we both got a long night in store, so hope you're well rested, energized, and ready to go. We'll be watching for the results. Then, of course, the analysis with you tomorrow as well. So again, for those of you still going out to vote, 4 hours, 39 minutes, about 20 seconds left until the polls close at 8 o'clock. Remember, if you are in line by 8, you will be able to vote. So I know a lot of candidates will say, if you are in line, stay in line, but it's true, you will be able to if you do get there by 8 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Check in with our political reporter, Jason Calvi, in just 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Live Desk.
Closely following the Wisconsin primary races here today, as it is election day. Polls close in 4 hours, 36 minutes, and about 45 seconds on the dot. Of course, we've got our countdown clock keeping you things right down to the wire. I want to bring in our political reporter, Jason Calvi. I want to talk with you a little bit, Jason, about what happens after 8 o'clock, because I know it becomes go time here in the newsroom.
Yeah, so pretty much 8 o'clock, the results are going to start trickling in from each polling place to their county, and then the counties will start reporting. So what's key to keep in mind, I think Dane County, those results come pretty quickly. So 8 o'clock is going to happen, and I would imagine that soon after 8, maybe 8:15, we're going to start getting results from Dane County. That's going to be really, really quick. That's going to show how strong of a lead potentially the front runner, Francesca Hong, has in her home county, her home city of Madison. So we're going to be looking at those numbers to see what kind of situation, what kind of lead potentially Hong has in her home county, coming really quick after the polls close at 8 o'clock. Keep in mind, though, it's really important for everybody to listen. Let's say you got to work until 6 and you have to go have dinner or whatever. As long as you're at your polling place, as long as you're in line, then you're able to vote. So if there's a long line and you get there at 7:50, as long as you're in line, you're able to vote. There was actually a really interesting appeals court ruling from the Wisconsin Appeals Court on this very issue. But the long story short, state law says as long as you're in line by that deadline at 8 o'clock, you can vote. If you get in line at 8:01, you can't vote, not allowed. So that's the key thing. We're going to start seeing those results from Dane County really early, maybe 8:15 or so. And then we'll see potentially results from Milwaukee County coming in a little bit later. Milwaukee County uses a central count to process and count the city of Milwaukee uses a central count to count absentee ballots in the city of Milwaukee, so that takes a little bit longer. We'll see those results of the absentee ballots all coming in at the same time because they cannot report the results from central count until all of the absentee ballots in the city of Milwaukee are counted. So that will be a large number towards the end of the night. Flashback to 2022 when there was a competitive primary for governor here in Wisconsin on the Republican side, and it was a difference of about 5 points between Tim Michaels, who won the primary, and Rebecca Clayfish, who lost. It was about 5 points separating them. Those results on that primary night were in by about 8:45, so I'm expecting we're not going to have a very long night here in Battleground, Wisconsin.
That's what's going to be my next question, was what would indicate that it would be a long night? What are you looking for? Yeah. What counties are you looking for that might give us an indicator of who's going to win here and when the race is going to be called?
I think Dane County is where I'm going to be looking because those results come pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So if Hong has a commanding lead in her home county, that's a good sign for her. Keep in mind, the Democratic population has been really growing in Dane County. When you look at the numbers of voters there, the numbers of voters in Dane County have grown over recent years, but also the percentage of Democrats voting in Dane County has increased. So it's a big, sizable part of winning a Democratic primary is to do well in Dane County. So I'm going to look and see how well is Francesca Hong doing in her home county of Dane. I'll have a lot more insight coming up in a little bit, Maddie. I will come back, but really, let's do an Ask Me Anything. Any questions that you have, come on our Instagram and our Twitter. Send us those questions, and I'll try to get to them in about 15 minutes. How about that, Maddie?
That sounds great. I love to hear that, Jason. I'll let you go for now. And yes, please tweet us, or I guess post for us. I guess it's now X. DM us any of those things. You can DM me. All of my social media is at Maddie Stelk. If you have any questions here for Jason, we will have him answer them for you in just a few minutes now. So go ahead, ask anything, any comments, statements, anything you want Jason to look at or answer. He is our guy. I know I'll be tuning in on Fox Local tonight as those results do start to come in. It's something you're not going to want to miss. But again, you have the opportunity in just the next 15 minutes to be able to get your questions answered by our political reporter. So you can go ahead and tag us, tweet those out, and we'll bring them to you right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Going to take a quick break. We'll be right back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Following some breaking news right now on Milwaukee's north side, taking a live look right now. This is the scene right now live. Our crew's there at 84th and Febrance. We know there was a large police response here. A suspect was detained according to law enforcement, and we brought you that video right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Our reporter Durante Matthews is there working to learn more information from law enforcement. We saw earlier a vehicle used in tactical situations for Milwaukee police was pulled up to this house right now. You can see that crime tape is still up, but the scene has since died down a little bit as an investigation is now underway. I'm going to bring you that video live right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Brought a lot of neighbors outside, which makes a lot of sense when you hear it because there's loud banging sounds that happen as police start to detain this suspect here. Take a listen.
Oh, they shot him. Oh. They got it. No, they got it. They got it. I think he shot him. I think he shot him. Yep, he shot him. He ain't dead though, but I think they shot him.
And this was just a few hours ago at the scene at 84th and Febrance, where law enforcement, including members of the FBI at the scene as well, detaining a man right here. We know that a search warrant was being executed at this time when this was all happening. We don't know what the warrant was for or what led up to the escalation here at the scene, but we do know that this suspect was taken away in handcuffs. From this video that we saw earlier, garnered a lot of attention from around the neighborhood, a lot of neighbors going outside trying to figure out what exactly happened here. Durante Matthews on the scene right now as we take this live look right now. This is what the scene looks like now, a little less chaotic and tense. As you can see, we're seeing members of law enforcement, detectives talking to one another here as this investigation now gets underway. Once we learn more, we will be sure to bring it to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Let's give you a live look outside right now at downtown Milwaukee. A little bit of fog there, some cloud coverage as we look at our countdown clock. 4 hours, 27 minutes, 50 seconds-ish to get to the polls. I know I was talking with our political analyst, Mordecai Lee, a little earlier, talking about the storms earlier possibly affecting people as they head to the polls this afternoon. But we're hoping things stay pretty dry as we head into the evening in case people still want to get out and cast their ballots. Let's bring in meteorologist Holly Baker. Am I right? Are we staying dry, I hope?
Yes, we'd like to be staying dry throughout the rest of the day. Maybe a spotty shower, if anything, but we are overall looking to stay pretty dry. We do look here at our conditions now. We're at 76 degrees, but our dew points are a little bit on the higher side, right at 71. Wind is from the northeast at about 9 miles per hour. Now, we did see rain earlier today, in which the National Weather Service is now deciding to consider this a derecho. So this is going to be possibly considered a derecho, considering the wind speeds were way above 58 miles per hour, as well as the damage or storm distance. That's the amount of miles that the storm actually traveled. As you see here, this storm traveled at least 350 plus miles across several states, including, we got a little bit of action for the rain earlier. Illinois, as well as Indiana, and even parts of Michigan got a little bit more of that rain. And it packed a punch, as you see here, several storm reports with those trees down. Got lots of trees down as well as strong winds. So it had a lot of damage that was pretty much included with that. We are nice and dry now, though. As you see here, skies even starting to clear out a little bit more as well. Looking ahead, here's what you can expect. We will overall stay dry throughout the rest of this evening. Heading into Wednesday's forecast, we will start the morning off on a drier note. As we head towards the afternoon, We could have maybe a spotty shower or two, as you see here. This is even 4:30. Mainly just going to be more of those clouds kind of moving into the area, but we do look to be much drier heading into our Wednesday's forecast. We look at temperatures and how they'll trend throughout the rest of this evening. You'll notice that we're going to stay in the 70s for the next couple of hours, and really even as we head overnight, those temperatures will drop to at least the lower 70s by 3 a.m. Now we could land in the upper 60s for those lows by the time most folks wake up tomorrow morning. Looking at the dew point forecast here, you notice that dew points and their forecasts are going to stay high for the remainder of the week. We are a little bit lower as we head towards Friday's forecast, but then it starts to really get higher again, or to increase with our dew points as we head over the weekend. So that muggy feel is going to really stick around for the next couple of days and really over the weekend as well. We really only got one day of relief, and that's on Friday. Temperatures in the 70s with lower dew points and partly cloudy skies. All the other days are looking to have some rain in the forecast. Temperatures will be in the 80s tomorrow, then we drop to the 70s. We stay in the 70s for majority of the weekend, and even next week we have one day where we could be back in the 80s, but also too that's going to be depending on the rain, and does the rain cool us off before we warm all the way up to our high in the 80s. And then on Monday we're going to be in the 70s, looking much drier though with partly cloudy skies. So we have an okay forecast on the way. We do get a little bit more of that rain, but I will say it is much needed, Maddie, considering that the drought conditions last week, we saw some improvements, but honestly, we are still dealing with those abnormally dry spots in some areas where it's moderately drought conditions. Or a moderate drought condition, I should say. So we're definitely keeping our eyes on it overall, and hopefully with the rain that we get for the remainder of the week into next week helps that drought monitor continue to improve.
All right, yeah, fingers crossed, Holly. I guess I'll welcome the rain because of the drought conditions. That's very true, but hopefully we'll get some sunshine in store for next week and maybe even Friday. I feel like that's the only day right now that I'm looking at that could be good for some sun. But thanks, Holly. We're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
3:38 on your Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us here on Fox Local, and happy Election Day. I am seeing a very familiar face popping up on our national feed right now. Mordecai Lee, UWM professor, he's on live now right now, and we know this because This race here in Wisconsin for governor specifically has garnered national attention as we talk about Francesca Hong, the frontrunner in this race on the Democratic side, running for governor. She's campaigning on being a democratic socialist. A lot of people calling Wisconsin the next test case for this ideology. So I'm curious about what kind of the national perspective is. So I want to dip into it really quickly here, as long as I'm not catching the end of it. But this is Mordecai right now, live on Live Now.
Graphic up here. Tom Tiffany, the U.S. representative, is the presumptive nominee. What do you expect to hear from him if he does give a speech tonight?
Well, I expect what he's going to say, regardless of who is the primary winner on the Democratic side, that he's going to say that there is a clean, clear distinction between what he believes in and what that Democrat believes in. And I think he might even say that this is going to be the clearest choice for Wisconsin voters ideologically in decades, and that he will present himself as a moderate Republican, a MAGA Republican, and then contrast it to the beliefs of his Democratic opponent. I'm sure there will be controversy about his stances, for example, on abortion before Roe v. Wade was repealed on January 6th. But ever since he declared for governor, he's been presenting himself as a very moderate, common sense kind of Republican, and I think he's been doing a very good job doing that.
All right, couple more hours left to vote in the state of Wisconsin. I'm sure you're tracking it just as much as we are here at Live Now. Anything else you'd like to add as polls are still open and we'll get these race calls in potentially a couple of hours here?
Right. The polls close in Wisconsin at 8 o'clock our time. And I wouldn't be surprised if by 9 o'clock our time, we're going to have a pretty decent sense of who won the Democratic primary. Results start trickling in until about 8:30. And then from about 8:30 to 9 o'clock, it's a tsunami of results. So I think it'll be relatively early in the evening when we know who won.
All right. Had to bring that in there because Mordecai making it to the big leagues there on Live Now. That's our national affiliate, if you will, kind of doing the same thing we are here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but with more of a national and broader outlook. If you're ever interested in watching, of course, I don't want to take you away from us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but sometimes people may be interested in some national network news. You are able to tune in there anytime on Fox Local. We have it on our bookshelf of things. But, you know, at times when we're dipping into a national event here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but then turn to something local and you're like, wait, I want to look at that in full. You can always tune in, see what they're talking about and what they're up to, as well as look at our secondary streams that we have on our FOX6 Milwaukee YouTube page as well. But great to see a familiar face there on Live Now as we head into a very highly anticipated primary tonight. And as Mordecai was saying, polls do close at 8 o'clock here, so we've got about 4 hours and 17 minutes left until that happens. Let's kind of check in with a poll right here that I'm seeing on our screen talking about how are you voting today? So, of course, we know that the early voting has ended, but 71% say that they'll be voting in person on Election Day. I know we just got the latest numbers from the Wisconsin Election Commission yesterday about the total number. Over 300,000 people cast their ballot early in the Badger State, but we won't know how many people voted in total until after the results we get tonight. And of course, polls do close at 8 o'clock. Mordecai emphasizing once again, and our Jason Calvi, that if you are in line by 8 o'clock, you will be able to vote. So be sure to get out there if you can today and vote in the several races that we're following here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to take a quick break here, but we'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us. 7:45 on your Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for being with us here on Fox Local. Getting in some breaking news right now at this scene we've been following at 84th and Fee Branch. That's just north of Capitol right now. We now have a little bit more insight as to what exactly happened here. We know now that the suspect that was arrested in the video that we brought to you earlier here on the Wisconsin Live Desk is somebody who was wanted for a homicide that we've been covering that happened over the weekend. I'm going to show you that arrest video and then bring up the photos that we have of the two victims and what we know about what exactly happened here. But we do know, again, this is video from a little bit earlier that I'm about to show you of the suspect being detained. Again, we now know that it is confirmed that it was a homicide suspect related to a shooting that happened at 21st and Pierce over the weekend.
He ain't dead though, but I think they shot him.
And I am going to wait because this is going to play on a loop here, because behind that car, the suspect is being detained. Our Durante Matthews was at the scene earlier. He said he spoke to neighbors who said they heard two loud bangs, which you are going to hear in this video once it does go on the loop. But we do know that there was some sort of escalation between law enforcement and this man we now know who has been arrested in connection to that homicide. 3 people were killed.
Oh, they shot him. They got it. No, they got it.
So again, this was just a few hours ago at the scene at 84th and Fee Branch, just north of Capitol. We now know that this man is in custody related to a shooting. This is who we're talking about here. The victims in this situation were identified by family over the weekend. It happened at 21st and Pierce. So the victims right here, Vanessa De Herrera and Scott Buchholz, were killed in this shooting. We now know the man that we just saw get arrested. We showed you that video just a few hours ago, has been arrested in connection to their deaths. There was a third victim as well at 39th and Townsend. We know that these two shootings were related, and that is her right there, Shamarla Hare, the third victim in this shooting. So we now know that there has been an arrest made that we saw right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So that is the update that we are getting from police right now. The man right here on your screen now in custody in relation to those 3 deaths that happened over the weekend. We're going to bring you updates as soon as we learn more, but this is the breaking news that we did want to get to you here. And this is a live look right now still at 84th and Fee Branch, where law enforcement, not as tense of a scene now that that man has been brought into custody here. We don't know much about who the suspect is other than that was arrested in relation to it. We know that after the deployment of the flashbang and other tactical strategies, the suspect we know is a 36-year-old male, that he was arrested. We will be waiting for those charges, going to be referred to the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. But this is breaking news that there has arrest that has been made just a few days after 3 people died in a shooting Saturday. So we showed you the photos of the victims there, family members identifying who they were, but we now know that a 36-year-old male was arrested. That's what we brought to you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Thanks for being with us here on Fox Local. We are continuing to following our coverage here on Election Day in Wisconsin. We know that there's several races that we're following, including the one for governor. We do have extended coverage here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and Fox Local heading into tonight. So we have extended Election Day coverage hosted by the one and only Brian Polson from 6:30 to 9 o'clock. So if you keep it right here on Fox Local, we'll have you covered until at least 11 o'clock, maybe even later if the results are not called by then. But it'll be analysis, polling information, and then early vote totals after the polls close here. So you'll be the first to know about all of your election results right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So important, just wanted to remind everybody that the coverage will be extended here, and we'll have several voices there, including a Brian Polson and also our reporter, Jason Calvi, our political reporter, who's been following this race now for months. I want to bring him in now. I know Jason's been doing some hits for our affiliate stations around the country, and Jason, that's because this race has garnered some national attention.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's been nonstop coverage the last couple of weeks. So we've been covering this thing for more than a year. The whole question of whether Governor Evers was going to seek re-election or not. He announced finally in July of 2025 he was not seeking re-election, which sets up this time now where we have primaries, competitive primaries on both sides. Well, the Republican primary not so competitive, but you have a very competitive Democratic primary, and we see all those candidates. There's going to be 7 on your ballots if you're going in to vote today. 7 names on the ballots. Only 4 of them are still in the race, but you can see all 7 are on your ballot. So the ballots were printed back in June, and once you qualify, you're on the ballot. There's no getting off the ballot after they're printed in June. So here's all 7 on your ballot, and the ones in color on your screen are the ones who are still actively campaigning for governor. You see Joel Brennan, David Crowley, Francesca Hong, and Kelda Royce, and then 3 below that in black and white still on your ballot, but they've dropped out, and that'll be a big question, I think, tonight when we look to see how many votes does Mandela Barnes get, how many votes does Missy Hughes get, how many votes does Sarah Rodriguez get, because the thing in Wisconsin after July, there's no more spoiling of your ballots, there's no more redos. The Wisconsin Elections Commission in July voted saying no more spoiling of ballots. What is spoiling of ballots in the years past? If your candidate dropped out or you decided you changed your mind, you could go in, get your absentee ballot, get your envelope back, rip it up, was never counted, was never touched, and you get a redo. That's the spoiling of absentee ballots process that was allowed in years past. But in July of this year, the Wisconsin Elections Commission voted no more spoiling. So if you voted for one of those candidates that got out of the race, that's who your vote's going to be counted for tonight. So when you see those votes trickling in tonight, you're going to see a percentage going to those candidates who are no longer in the race.
And Jason, I know we had mentioned that you were talking to some of our affiliates earlier. I know it was in Chicago and in Minnesota. I'm curious, I didn't get to tune in because, of course, I was here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. What kind of questions or what are people wondering in other states about this race here in Wisconsin?
I think just the fact that it's a national fight. There's a national debate going on for Democrats about what the future direction of the party should look like. 2024, when they lost the White House, was a devastating blow. And there's been a lot of soul searching, a lot of questions, a lot of fighting over what should the future direction of the party look like. And you've seen the mayoral race in New York City. You've seen several primaries. You saw the primary in Michigan last week for the United States Senate, where you had someone farther to the left versus maybe more of an establishment-backed Democrat fighting for the nomination, and the person farther to the left, Al Sayed, won the primary in Michigan. Progressives, people on the left, are hoping that will be repeated here in battleground Wisconsin when Francesca Hong, they're hoping, will win. But again, you're seeing the more center-left people like Governor Tony Evers and others really putting all of their efforts in the last 2 weeks to getting David Crowley back into this race. Governor endorsed him after, remember, he dropped out of the race, got back in. This is David Crowley. He got back out of the races, had been running for nearly a year, was only polling about 3%. And sorry, IFB went out there. He was only polling about 3%. And Maddie, I'm losing you here.
Oh, no.
I think they may have switched over for the newscast. Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes. I don't think you can hear me, though, can you?
Sorry,
Oh,
Maddie.
man.
I'll just finish that thought. I can't hear you any longer. I think they switched IFB over to our 4 o'clock newscast right here on Fox Local. So, Maddie, last point here is that David Crowley got out of the race. Then when all the polls were showing Francesca Hong leading the Democratic field for the primary, there was a sense of what are establishment folks going to go with. David Crowley got back into the race with the backing of Governor Evers, and so they've been campaigning together. They campaigned again last night, so this is sort of the battle that's playing out, and the national folks are paying attention to this battle over whether Battleground Wisconsin's Democrats are going to pick a Democratic socialist to be the party's nominee for governor. That'll be a key question that voters right now are deciding across the state, Maddie.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the numbers. I know you can't hear me, so I'm just going to go like this to know that you're good. Thank you, Jason, for joining us here on the live desk. And as Jason was mentioning, they are switching things over to FOX6 News at 4, so a different system that we'll be working with here. But be sure to stay tuned. Keep it right here on Fox Local. We've got you covered at least through 11 o'clock tonight until those races are called. Plenty of reasons to tune in, including more analysis from Jason Calvi, who's been following this, he said, for over a year now since it was announced that Governor Tony Evers would not be running for re-election.